Hey, let's start the show.
It's April 30th, 2015. Welcome to This Is Only a Test, the official podcast of Tested.com. I'm Will Smith. Seated directly to my left, Norman Chan. How you doing?
My name.
How you doing this morning, sir?
Refreshing.
Relatively unscathed.
Unscathed. My hands are all good.
Okay.
No burns.
No burns. Jeremy Williams.
Hello.
You Pixels.
Yes.
Welcome
Yes,
back to the show.
as we all should.
We're glad to have you here today, sir.
Thank you.
Norm and I had a weird night last night. We lit stuff on fire and made ice cream, and
Nacho cheese was involved.
there was nacho cheese. Were you there? Did you try that?
No, God no.
It was revolting.
That sounded like the worst idea ever.
Nacho cheese ice cream. I highly discourage you from trying nacho cheese ice cream.
Where
How
did
do you make nacho cheese ice cream?
You take nacho cheese and you put it in a mixer, and then you turn the mixer on and you pour liquid nitrogen in it until it has the consistency of ice cream.
Does it ever get the consistency of ice cream?
Eventually, yes. Eventually, it froze enough that it looked like ice cream. It kind of felt like ice cream when you first put it in your mouth. But you know how when you put ice cream in your mouth, it kind of melts and goes away?
Yes.
This
Melts your
never
mouth on
happened.
your hands.
Yes, never happened. So it was a very unpleasant eating experience.
Where was this?
We were on the Giant Bomb Big Live show live last night, doing a throwback to one of our old Whiskey Media happy hour segments.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, where we tested novel ways of preparing food. So there we go.
Seared things.
Yeah, we used the Searsol and the liquid nitrogen to make ice cream.
Jeremy, have you ever put Caesar salad dressing on top of a steak
No,
and then seared it?
don't plan on it.
I have to say,
It's not recommended.
did you try the grilled cheese?
I didn't try the grilled
That
cheese.
grilled cheese turned out pretty good.
Maybe grilled cheese on bread, or no, Caesar
Caesar
dressing
dressing.
on bread with cheese.
Yeah.
That may work.
I could see that.
So one of the things, and just to be clear, I love a Caesar salad with a steak. It's one of my favorites. So, I mean, I might try the Caesar salad, Caesar dressing thing again. The thing that
It's a lot of fat.
the Caesar dressing is very similar to lots of people when they make grilled cheese, they put mayonnaise on the outside and use that as the fat when you're doing the grilling.
Or butter.
On the outside.
Yeah, on the outside.
Never heard of that. I've heard of putting it on the inside.
My wife puts it on the inside. I think that's revolting,
Yeah,
personally.
the cheese is on the inside.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
you want to have a good toast on the bread without burning the bread, and so you want to butter it up.
That's what I do.
Well,
Yeah,
but all you're doing is using fat to help brown the bread. To crisp it up. And in that case, Caesar dressing, lard, mayonnaise, anything you use that's fat should theoretically. We could put ice cream on there, maybe too much water in ice cream. I don't know. I think that'll be up on their site sometime today, so you can check it out if you want to see. We also have a whole bunch of America's Test Kitchen videos on the site this week. I went there. We didn't talk about it at the time because we were trying to not talk about things and then not have them happen for 3 months on the site. But when I was in Boston with Joey for PAX East a few months ago, we got to go to America's Test Kitchen.
America's Test, an institution in the culinary arts.
They are America's premier food testers and tasters, I believe, is their tagline. But it's also where Cooks Illustrated Magazine, Cooks Country Magazine happen. All one big building outside, or I guess in in Boston suburbs, maybe. I don't know. I'm bad at Massachusetts geography. And Christopher Kimball, who's their editor and founder, took me on a tour of the facility. We saw everything that they have there, learned a little bit about how they work. And then several of the test cooks and editors helped me make food. We made food together. So
What was the most
learned about
interesting thing you saw there, food-wise or equipment-wise?
You know what the most interesting? Do you have a Le Creuset, like a ceramic lined Dutch oven? Do either of you?
No.
So it's when you watch cooking shows, those big orange or blue or green Dutch ovens that have the white inside, and they use them on every cooking show ever because a normal cast iron Dutch oven is black. So it's hard to shoot inside. You can't really see what's going on in the pan with a black pan. The Le Creusets have a white ceramic lining. As you use those, they get really dirty and brown, and it looks like a used piece of cookware. They're supposed to turn that way. But cooking shows always replace them very quickly so that it stays white inside and it looks new. I thought for a long time that this was a marketing ploy on Le Creuset's part. because it makes sense. If it gets dirty and you think you need a new one, people will buy more, and they sell more enameled Dutch ovens. I saw the wall where they use the Dutch ovens, where the Dutch ovens that they use on America's Test Kitchen, like the ones that they just use when they're practicing, not on camera. And there was like 24 of them on a shelf, and they were all just black as the night inside. It was great. I took a picture and sent it to my wife. I was like, stop scouring the inside of this Dutch oven. You're making yourself crazy. And there's no reason to. It's even more non-stick the more brown stuff you get on there. It fills in the pores on the enamel. So that was the most interesting thing I saw.
You know as much about cooking as you do about technology. I'll tell you that.
That could either be really mean or really nice. Thank you, Jeremy.
I mean, it's amazing. Every time you talk about this stuff, I just don't know where it comes from, where you have the room for this knowledge.
Well, I bumped out all the Simpsons trivia over the years. So
Butter burgers.
Butter burgers. Are you going to make butter burgers, Norm? No. Butter burgers are pretty good. Butter burgers are a Wisconsin.
Butter burgers are not something you make. It's something someone else makes for you, so you don't know exactly how much butter is in there.
It's 2 tablespoons. It's not that much butter.
I'm okay.
The ice cream that you had yesterday had 6 egg yolks in it.
I didn't have a lot of it.
Okay, well, that's good. A butter burger is a thing you eat a couple of bites of, and then you feel your life getting a little shorter.
It looked good, though.
Yeah.
How was the ice cream? Norm?
The actual ice cream, the olive oil ice cream was good.
Yeah.
Okay.
The secret of olive oil ice cream is that if you put a little bit of sea salt on the top,
It tastes like salty olive oil ice cream.
it tastes like vanilla ice cream.
I don't know if that's what that came across exactly without a lot of telegraphing.
As my wife said, I don't know that Giant Bomb is the audience for the type of food you guys were preparing.
The palettes. The
Yes,
palettes of the gaming.
refined palettes.
Not quite so refined palettes. The nacho cheese palettes.
Yeah.
Line palettes.
Nobody liked the nacho cheese stuff. Microsoft Build is happening right now. Yesterday, the show opened 8:30 a.m. There was a really long keynote. The thing that I both love and hate about Microsoft's developer conference is that it is actually for developers, and that keynote is like their code samples. They have whole screens. They show IDEs. They talk about APIs. They talk about like moving SQL data from one zone in Microsoft's Azure cloud storage to another zone and syncing it simultaneously, and all sorts of crazy stuff like that. There were a few consumer interesting things for folks like us out of the 3 hours. They didn't give a Windows 10 date, which I was kind of surprised by. That might be happening right now, even as we're speaking, because the day 2 keynote is happening now.
No Windows 10 date as of right now.
No Windows 10 date. They did talk a little bit about Windows 10 App Store or the Windows 10 Store. You'll be able to buy normal desktop apps and have them delivered and sandboxed in a way similar to Metro, similar to the Metro/Modern apps work in Windows 8, which means that you'll be able to buy Photoshop elements and Premiere elements and stuff like that through their app store. It's unclear what that sandboxing means, like whether you'll be able to use them like normal apps and actually access the file structure. So we'll have to wait and see on that. Like how much the sandboxing affects the usability of those apps. But it is nice that stuff will be delivered automatically. I think that's one of the things I at first I was a little skeptical of the Mac App Store on OS 10, and it's ended up being a really, it's a useful thing.
Yeah, for updates alone. It's great.
Yeah, you never have to worry about updating your software again, basically. They showed some Android and iOS apps. I think this is while I was off doing something else, but
Okay.
they showed Android versions of Office, I know.
What's the way to get Android and iOS apps onto Windows 10?
Oh,
There's a recompile process, but it's supposed to be really easy. I don't know, for the iOS stuff, you take your Objective-C code and run it through their tool, and it spits out something that runs on Windows 10.
there's and actually takes advantage of stuff like Extents and their.
Yeah.
I'm always skeptical about
I mean, that's a massive undertaking.
Yeah.
Even to do iOS version 1 would have been a life achievement. I mean, to be able to port that easily to another platform. And there's a lot of libraries under there to support.
yeah.
Is it going to work better for some things versus other things?
I don't know about
Games
that.
or
I assume
opposed to-
apps, not games, at first.
I mean,
Games are more difficult, I would think.
It seems like there's a fine line between them. Is often crossed by both games and apps. I mean, they got to support touch. They got to support all the basic stuff. So I suppose you'd be able to. They demoed a game. So
What did they show?
It was it was a basic thing. It was like somebody's. It wasn't a real game.
It was like a developer.
It was a
art.
developer game.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, that's good for them. I think it's an awesome move. It's just I don't know if it'll apply to people using third-party engines.
I mean, the big question. Well, but if you're using a third-party engine, presumably you should have an output.
You should be able to export.
You should
to
just be able to
whatever
export.
platform you want. That's true.
I look at anytime somebody. Well, one of the things Microsoft has always said in the Windows 8 era, and even a lot of the Windows 7 era, is that it's easy to bring your apps across platforms. Speaking within their own platform. So they said for a long time, look, it's easy to bring your Windows Metro modern app to Windows Phone, Windows 8, x86 and x64, and Windows 8 RT. And then I guess that was kind of true, but there were always caveats, and they've removed more caveats each year. So it's difficult for me as somebody who's not a programmer to look and see like how what they're saying now aligns with what they said in Anaheim 5 years ago. And like when they're talking about moving across platforms, I look at how people have done that in the past, how companies have done that in the past, and it's been universally kind of terrible. So I mean, I don't know. I'm withholding judgment on this until
Candy
we actually
Crush Saga.
Yeah,
That was ported using this Project Island.
Is that right?
Yeah.
but those are. I mean, presumably there's 3D stuff in those games, but they're mainly 2D games. It's not like you're not seeing shooters and stuff like that.
Not being an app developer,
Yeah.
it's a little over my head.
Yeah, it's still. I think it's cool because Apple's not doing touch laptops yet. And this is
Right.
Microsoft taking advantage of that.
Well, but presumably this is going to be to drive app adoption on Windows Phone side
Yes.
as well.
Yeah, that's true.
They talked a lot about Windows Phone. They talked about Continuum, which is their technology that basically lets you use your phone as a PC. Presumably, this is hinting toward x86 versions of Windows Phone.
So how does the phone work as a PC?
You can hook it up to a monitor and keyboard and mouse, and it
And
just
you
works.
get a desktop.
Yeah,
You get a desktop.
We've seen that before. I feel like there's a time
What
in
was that Motorola thing called?
the Moto.
I'm gonna look that up. Oh my god,
can't
It
remember.
was so bad.
So here's the thing. Every year, ARM becomes more capable. Every year, the really low power x86 stuff becomes more capable. I don't think we're at the point yet where I want to run Windows on the really low power x86 or the really low power ARM. But I can see a time in the future when that'll be true, right? Like I can see a time in the future when my phone will have all the compute power I need to do the stuff that I'm doing on like the word processing and web browsing and email and that really light stuff that I do on my laptop right now. I don't see video encoding happening for the foreseeable future. But I mean I can imagine a world where my phone has become the primary computer instead of just my probably secondary computer if I'm thinking about it and being honest.
Well, yeah. Will you hook it up to a bigger monitor?
I mean that's what they're saying.
I don't think I'd hook my phone up to a monitor.
I think that what they're saying
tablets make more sense, way more sense for that.
I think what they're saying is you won't have to plug it in. It'll just mirrorcast over or whatever your
The
your
Motorola
endpoint is.
Atrix.
That thing was bad.
the thing that could turn into a laptop or a desktop with a dock running Linux.
All those fat accessory dollars. They also talked about Arduino and Raspberry Pi in their Internet of Things segment. They released a blog post that had more detail about this a little while ago. And there's a couple of parts of it. We already knew that Raspberry Pi 2, Windows 10 was going to support Raspberry Pi 2 out of the box.
Have you tried that yet?
I have not. I don't have a Raspberry Pi 2 yet. Norm has
I
one.
have
We had
one.
Have you tried it yet, Norm?
No.
I got one in the mail today. So
Can you put the
Fun to
technical
try.
preview on it? Is it? I assume it's just a CLI thing, right? It's not GUI.
Oh, I assumed it was GUI.
Oh,
I don't know. I mean, Raspberry Pis are already run, X forever.
we should get to the bottom of this.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Android certification, the Arduino certification is new. It's unclear what that means to me.
Explain this.
Yes.
It does. So Android doesn't run Windows.
Arduino.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Arduino doesn't run Windows, right?
No.
It-
Arduino has barely enough processing power to
Yeah.
You're asking a rhetorical question, Jeremy
I
Williams.
was. So what does it do?
It seems like it's a framework to make it easier to get Arduino running on your computer, so that you can dump code over to it and stuff like that.
So you can talk to it
So you can talk to it.
from a computer.
Yeah, so that's one of those things that's kind of easy on Macs because of the way Mac serial driver support works. But I know that there's you have to install some weird Atmel drivers and stuff like that on the Windows side. So most of my Arduino experience is on Macs. I haven't done a lot of PC Arduino stuff.
Curious about this. I'll be looking into that.
Have you seen that Intel Compute Stick that runs? It's basically
Ars Technica did a thing about it last week, right?
The reviews just came out this past week. It's apparently it's capable. It's an Atom, so Bay Trail Atom 8.1 runs Windows 8.1 full GUI.
It's basically like a Chrome OS level PC, a Chromebook level computer without the screen and keyboard, right?
But with a micro SD slot.
Yeah. And it has Bluetooth and Wi-Fi?
I believe Wi-Fi for sure.
Does it have a USB port?
I don't think so.
So the only way to get stuff off of it is over the network.
Well,
presumably though, if it's Chrome OS, right? Or are they Windows too?
No, it's 8.1.
Oh, it's Windows 8.1.
This is Windows. It comes built in with Windows 8.1.
Wow,
$150.
BANANAS. They introduced the official name for Project Spartan, which is the replacement to Internet Explorer.
Bummed it's not Project Spartan.
I thought Project Spartan was an okay name, but I'm sure the marketing team didn't. Probably Spartan means something bad in like lower Kazakhstan.
Well, I thought Spartan could have the double meaning of the Halo character, as well as it being a clutter-free browser. It's
You
Spartan.
mean the promise of Chrome?
Yes.
Microsoft had data that said otherwise.
I guess they wanted one syllable.
It's Microsoft Edge. That's 3 syllables.
Well, Edge.
Edge.
Oh.
Launch Edge.
Edge.
And download Chrome.
So in the software world, Edge means, what they're talking about is the edge of the platform, right? In the Lawrence Lessig sense of the word. So Lawrence Lessig's thing was...
He's still alive.
Oh,
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Did I imply that he wasn't?
No, it's just
No.
past tense. I'm sure his thing is still...
Well, no,
whatever,
but this is what he wrote about. This was 15, 20 years ago. It was a long time ago.
I see.
His idea is that innovation always happens at the edges of platforms. So if you look at Windows as a platform in the early days of Windows, the innovation was always happening all the way out at the fringes of what was happening. Same thing with Linux, same thing with the web, same thing with Google's ecosystem. So what Microsoft is saying is this is where innovation is happening. We're going to innovate on our edge of the web, is what I think. Anyway, I'm reading too much into it.
I like it, though.
You like the name or the theory?
It's a good name. It's a fine name. It's a good name. Edge is a highly contested name, though. It's something that it was a
Ford car.
It was a magazine owned by
Still
our
is.
alma mater,
Still is.
Future.
Yeah.
That's true. And it was a copywritten name that there was some litigation over it.
Well, Microsoft's very familiar with that.
There's
stuff.
that.
It's ungoogleable by itself.
There's that iOS. That's true. There's that iOS game called Edge, which is excellent. Remember that Cube?
Oh, that is a good
running
game. Yeah.
I just know somebody owns that copyright, owns that name, and is very litigious about it. So I'll bet there was some money exchanged. That's just my guess.
Well, Microsoft has not been one to name things and then change the name again 6 months later when they get sued. So.
Oh, have you seen the logo for Edge?
Yeah, it's bad.
It looks kind of like IE.
It looks a lot
without
like
the
IE.
Huh. That's interesting.
That swoop
Lowercase
makes it look
e.
like it's going back. It looks like it makes it look like it's rotating counterclockwise to me.
Wow.
Bet they paid a lot of money for that.
Oh man! So it's just the Internet Explorer E with the swoosh and the negative space changed.
A little bit of negative space removed.
Wow.
Changed. I mean, yeah. There's familiarity. People click on that in the taskbar,
That's
the
right.
E, and they're looking for an E. They associate that with Internet. Interesting.
So that brings us to HoloLens
Oh, yeah.
and Windows Holographic. That was at the end of 3 hours. I heard, and now it's time to talk about Windows Holographic. I was like,
And ears perked up everywhere.
I woke up alive, back to life.
Yeah. The glasses were part of the family of Windows products that they would show up until this point, right?
As if they were a real thing.
Right.
Yes.
Windows 10. Runs Windows 10.
So they started out by showing a couple of demos. They had a guy come out with the glasses on, and you saw, and they had the same camera set up with that had the image from the that he was seeing projected into the camera.
Yeah.
And these glasses, the hardware looked the same. Like it wasn't like a different.
I think in
industrial
January
design.
it was tethered.
Well, I'm just saying
This time
the
it
bulk,
wasn't.
The bulk.
It looked exactly the same.
Okay.
They showed a lot more about how like the head mount works this time. So it looks like there's a loop similar to the
Right.
Morpheus that rides around the outside edge of your head, and that's where the weight rests. There's definitely a small pair of glasses inside the big swoop. I think the swoop is just to reduce the amount of ambient light So that
Oh, you think they're just sunglasses?
I think they're sunglasses, or maybe they might be polarized or something. But I think they're to mean that the thing that's blasting light into your eyeballs doesn't have to be as bright, or reflecting onto the lenses of glass, whatever it is.
And it was wireless.
Wireless this time, it seemed like. I mean, he could have had the guy who was doing the demo could have had like a laptop jammed into the back of his pants or something, but it looked untethered from what we could see. And they showed actual UI for Windows Holographic this time.
Okay.
They didn't say it was final UI, but they kind of implied that.
What do you mean UI? For the robot?
No. For the Windows, they showed a start menu.
Okay. Wait, where's the start menu? Where does it float?
So they showed Windows floating.
Oh, I remember what you mean.
Yeah. So there were like 2 or 3 different modes for tracking windows. One was you could just put them on a wall. So they had a bunch of windows up on walls in the fake living room on the stage.
So
you haven't watched this video at all, so I'm describing it. Okay, good.
So theoretically, we're talking about the device maps the room, figures out a large flat surface it thinks is wall.
Yeah.
And then it can pace then and skew and distort that window so it looks like Windows, not the OS, but like application windows.
Yes, lowercase.
Are on that wall as in their picture frames.
Right. They weren't in picture frames, but they were floating. It looked like a few inches off the wall. There was a flat shaded drop shadow behind it. It looked like the windows themselves, when you saw them from the side, looked like they were maybe 1.5 inches thick. So it was not a 0 thickness window, but it looked magical still. I mean,
but the idea was that it was running. This is how you're going to run traditional flat, rectangular applications through this interface.
When they say that every Windows Universal application will run on this is what they're talking about.
It doesn't have to be pasted to a wall. Like it could float in midair.
It could float from midair or get on a flat, like a table surface.
So the other interactions that they showed were a window floating in the same relative position to you. So
it would always be several feet away.
The start menu would always be straight up. There was he put a video window up that followed him and stayed in the same relative position, so like it was always on his left shoulder. So
that was a voice command. Like he said, "Follow me," and then it tracked him around the room.
Okay.
And we only saw 2 interactions. Touching, like air touch is what they call it, where they kind of tap at the air in front of them, presumably a gesture thing that's being picked up by the glasses. And then voice commands, where the rest was most of it.
Well, there would have been a drag as well.
Oh, I didn't see the drag.
Well, that's how he resized the video window. He made it bigger, and I think he moved some things around too. But that's after, it's sort of like a click and drag kind of thing, like a gesture, like you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
So the way they were demoing this, though, because you weren't seeing his perspective, you were seeing a third-party camera perspective.
You never see his perspective.
You can't see his perspective.
Right, exactly.
So they were integrating. They were taking the processing that the headset that he was wearing was doing, because they're all independent, and then re-rendering that for the audience benefit in another type of augmented
ostensibly reality. That could work for anybody. Like you could have a room of people all wearing the goggles that all see what he's seeing,
right?
And he's the only one allowed to interact with them.
But okay, I guess my point is that because we're seeing not a pass-through augmented reality, we're seeing not a see-through augmented reality. We're seeing actual pass-through augmented reality. We see no apparent latency, because the images are being compiled video.
There's a lot of problems with doing it this way in terms of the perception of how it works. Yeah. Absolutely, because also importantly, because it's rendered through the camera, it looks more like a full 180-degree FOV. It looks like it completes your field of vision because it completes the camera's field of vision, but it doesn't complete his.
Because your field of vision is 200 degrees.
Well, and more, like the screen is smaller.
You're saying this.
People who have used it only see a small portion of their field of view that's
So you have
augmented reality.
You have like that traditional 10 foot away 80-inch screen, and that's all you see.
Yeah, and they wouldn't probably see opaque objects, whereas the camera can render opaque objects into the scene.
So it looks like but Microsoft just did a really smart job with this video presentation of the demo.
Well, it's the same setup they used before. The things the registration was much better this time than it was last time.
Yeah. Well, I feel like they simplified it a little bit.
And that means the attachment of the virtual items to the real world items.
And the camera movement and the virtual object movements are really well in sync.
It was a little jumpy at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like there were moments at the first couple of seconds of that first demo. Like the robot, the little
I saw
robot
some
that
of
was
that.
on the
Yeah.
was jumping all over the place, and then he locked in.
Yeah.
Wait, okay.
But I feel like it's pretty good because that when things start to float in augmented reality, that's where you lose. That's where it loses
and
believability.
registration is one thing that you can't fake.
No, you have to know where the physical objects are and kind of have an idea of what they
I'm
are.
saying you can't fake it with the camera guy holding the camera.
Well, so that's the
for
thing.
For the demo, the
Yeah.
camera guy holding the big rig, not the headset, theoretically has the same spatial sensors as HoloLens because they're mapping the same room and still processing that same real time. So the registration you can't fake. What you can fake is latency in terms of when your head moves, how the virtual object lags behind.
How
the
can you
real
fake that?
object. Well, because we're seeing video on top of video.
We're seeing, but we're not necessarily seeing video.
We are literally seeing video on top of video.
They're showing through the camera. They're shooting through a screen.
And the camera's video.
Yeah.
And we're putting virtual video on top of video.
But in order to fake that, they'd still have to map the room and have all the registration.
So I'm saying the
stuff.
registration you can't fake.
The thing that we don't know about is what the actual display does.
And that's the latency.
Okay. I don't think that I wouldn't call that faking.
Well,
I would call that
I think that's
not the representation a human was going to get in the same situation.
I think it's what's make or break virtual reality.
Well, we're going to see today.
So what are the things that you're going to look for?
Yes. You got a confirmation?
I'm confirmed.
This is it. This is great
we'll
news.
see today. What are the things that you'll be looking for?
I mean, the first thing is how it works with glasses on, because
Okay.
I wear glasses and I'm not going to put contacts on unless they ask me to. I'm super interested to see how it handles like fast head movements and stuff like that.
That's the latency stuff,
Right.
That this video can't show.
Well, I mean, so the thing we don't know is if they're using the same screen, same display technology, just pipe that image into the camera, just on a bigger screen to cover the whole lens. We could be seeing exactly what you see.
I just doubt that. I highly doubt that. The image is way too sharp. Objects are way too opaque.
You think it's going to be more translucent and kind of generally fuzzier.
Yes.
Yeah, that's my.
So that's
assumption
we're talking
as well.
about fidelity then.
But I do have faith that the tracking is strong, judging from this.
You mean the registration?
Yeah.
The
Yes.
positioning.
Yes.
Positioning. Yeah.
I mean, and the thing is, if you think about the registration and the mapping the room, kind of the more viewpoints you put into that room, the better off it's going to be. Now, the other thing they could have faked is they could have set up the room and fed that information into the model without having it happen on the fly.
Right.
And that's something we're not going to know until we see them in the real world.
If you were doing a demo, wouldn't you do that?
Well, of course. I mean,
And even-
especially in a situation with stage lights.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
lighting and the different rooms will behave differently.
if they're using IR in any way, shape, or form, and they have bright ass stage lights up there, who knows what's? I mean, we've seen that jack up the leap motion, connects all sorts of stuff. So yeah, like I don't.
Like the demo you're going to get, they're going to theoretically have mapped that room already as well, or be
They could have.
aware of. They could have.
Yeah.
Be aware of as many variables as possible. Like what you're going to want to do.
Same thing with Valve with the Vive demo, for what it's worth.
Yeah,
Vive
absolutely.
demo. Yeah.
You want to maybe try to move if they give you the ability to move windows onto surfaces, move it onto a surface that's not native to the room, like onto your hand.
So you're not allowed to bring any objects into the room with you.
That tells me that they're cheating somehow.
Well,
They just don't want people to record video.
And it's not done yet. I mean, once this thing gets in the homes, there's going to be a lot. All the bugs are going to be visible.
So Vive is an interesting comparison because both of these products are slated to ship by the end of the year.
Yeah.
Augmented reality, from what researchers will say, is a tougher challenge to solve convincingly than virtual reality, largely because of latency.
The thing I will say is, I bet my hunch is that the nausea stuff that you get with bad VR is probably much less noticeable with AR because you still have the real world around you to give you a sense of presence.
Yeah.
So I mean, sense of presence, I believe, absolutely. AR, see-through AR.
Like, so AR
is
failing.
Gonna be way more comfortable
Yeah.
than pass-through AR, because passive AR is just a variant of virtual reality.
When you say pass through, you mean like having a camera that feeds video and then overlaying stuff on top of that.
Yeah. But pass-through AR, you're going to get a more seamless integration of the virtual element and what the representation of the real world than see-through AR, where latency, even 20 milliseconds, as John Carmack talked about, motion to photons, is good enough for head tracking in virtual reality, but the motion to photons in the real world is 0 milliseconds, effectively. But my point being that Vive and this ships in the year, the reports are
Is this shipping at the end of the year?
They said in the Windows 10 timeframe.
Well, but I mean, that could be in the next 5 years.
No. Like,
in the launch window.
In the launch window.
Oh, I missed that.
They talked about people are saying that there are a ton of these HoloLens units out there for developers because they really want developers to start making stuff for them.
And presumably, everybody at Build, all the developers are getting demos as well. They said they have hundreds of units set up
that's
for people to get.
A ton of units.
Yeah.
So my point is that the hardware, it's got to be close.
Yeah.
If they were untethered on stage for real, I think they have to be real close.
Which is why I don't know why they wouldn't want to show the best case scenarios. Allow people. Why it needs to be as controlled.
Maybe it's as controlled because they don't want bad press on the first press about it to be bad.
It's just for press. I mean, the press so far has been good.
Yeah, the people who've had the demo yesterday were really impressed. So that's kind of it for Build so far.
Right, and Fidelity is the other thing you'll be checking. I
want to see if I can see pixels.
You can see text. If you can read text.
If you can't read text on a thing that is supposed to be a productivity tool for Windows, they have real problems. So I'm assuming that text is going to be okay.
That's the other thing about this video is like everything's perfectly crisp and beautiful. It seems like
text and calendars is
if it actually looks
so
like this
tiny.
video.
That's the problem. It can't look like
be.
that video. There's no way.
Well, I mean, I don't know enough about how optics work to say that it can't look like that.
But there's just so many things about this video that are not what has been described about the real thing in terms of the field of view.
Oh, I know.
So I'm just saying,
we'll see.
I'll be very surprised.
Another use case, an interesting thing is that obviously in this environment the guy's walking around and he's standing up walking around, but we don't know whether AR like this is best suited for a giant living room space. No living room is this uncluttered also, and whether developers are going to develop things for sit-down AR experiences, if you're going to talk about in the couch, and maybe a couch and a flat desk surface, and maybe that's the best way. If you have, instead of a computer monitor, you have your desk, or maybe a computer monitor, and you can look at augmented things around the monitor, as opposed to it being 5 to 10 feet away and floating TVs and floating calendars.
I don't know. I'm really interested in 6 o'clock.
How can people find out your thoughts?
I think so. Tomorrow morning, Norm and I are doing live mixes all day. I think before we do the first one, we should get here a little early and we should sit down and talk about it.
Distill your thoughts. The Will's thoughts will be distilled in some fashion.
Yes,
very good.
We absolutely, those thoughts are valuable.
Yes,
we'll get those out to you.
I mean, we could also maybe we could do it late tonight, but we're doing a bunch of dads tonight, so it'll be late. It'll be like after 10.
Take lots of notes.
It's hard to take notes when you have goggles on.
Well, I mean, immediately after.
Yes.
Don't let your thoughts be no fleeting thoughts.
Norm, I've been doing this for almost 20 years.
But this is the first time. It's going to be very important. I'm excited.
I've been doing this for 20 years.
I'm not getting the demo, so you're going to be the conduit.
Norm's just jealous. He wants to do the demo.
I spent a fairly considerable amount of effort trying to get both of us in, and they just wouldn't do it. There's a little bit of Apple Watch news. Came out on Friday. Judging by the Mac Rumors boards, people who ordered after like 10:15 last night on the Friday it came out didn't get any.
That's not accurate because I ordered it like 10:05 and didn't get mine.
Oh,
it depends on the model. It does.
Yeah. And the band.
I'm a little bit upset about it because it hadn't even like switched from processing to whatever they do. But
you're not even ready for shipment yet?
No.
Oh, sorry.
And you did 10:05?
Yeah. I mean,
I
ordered right with you.
We were both on IM, and we both did. I said, what did we say? We said order watch first, and then do your
demo.
Of course,
store demo thing. And we both did those things, and I think maybe you got the more desirable model.
I did, because there were polls that said which one are you getting, and off the scale, like more than all the others combined, was the black 42.
That's what,
the Sport.
My wife got the 38 black, and she's like June now or something.
Wow. And so that was way, way more popular than the other models, and of course that's the one I wanted. And
I'm sorry,
it's gonna be a long wait.
You could have paid more for the.
I could have paid. I could have gotten any other thing and probably gotten it by now.
Yeah. Do you know? I haven't seen a steel
link
in the wild yet.
I haven't seen one of those. I haven't seen any leather. I've only seen mine in the and Danica's in the wild.
Yeah. I saw a black Sport. So how's your taptic feedback? Is it holding up?
Pretty good.
With launch, people say they sold. Estimates are well over 1 million in this pre-order period.
But sold or shipped?
Sold, and then only shipped several 100,000 is what some analysts claim.
Wow.
That's not great for this giant launch when they had, from the 10th to the 24th to do pre-orders and we presume scale production. So what you're alluding to, Jeremy, is this report from Wall Street Journal that there was a defective part.
The Taptic engine. It's made by 2 different manufacturers, and one of them has been making faulty parts that have been vetoed by Apple after the watch has been assembled.
Great.
After assembly.
Wow, that seems expensive.
It's a terrible.
Well, at least, after it got to the point beyond which they didn't think it would be vetoed.
So in QA.
Somewhere along the line, yeah. And but the other manufacturer is producing perfect parts. So I guess they're not making as many as they hoped.
So basically, the Wall Street Journal report said that they're scaling production. They've told other vendors to scale production down until June.
This is one of those things where, obviously, it's a lot of new technologies that Apple has not had a lot of. I think the things that they have the most experience with is the
machining
of the materials, like aluminum, steel, maybe less so steel, but aluminum for sure. Like they can get cases, no problem. But this is their first big OLED push.
Yep.
This is their first the Taptic engine.
It's the first time with the Force Touch stuff.
Force Touch, although
also
Force Touch is probably more software than hardware.
No, it has to have some sort of hardware. Unless the assumption is that it's working based on the fatness of your finger pad.
That is what the assumption is right now. It's a combination of it's a lot of it is.
Well, that would be easy.
Exactly.
Easy.
But the Taptic engine.
Keep talking. Keep talking.
Okay, so the Taptic engine is one of the things. It is in the MacBook, but the MacBooks don't have necessarily the.
Is it the same industrial design, the same form factor?
That's what we don't. I don't think so. And making that small onto the watch is an uncertainty. But it's one of those things that makes you realize how fragile a supply chain can be. And Apple can whip its suppliers into shape as hard as they want. But if one factory has a big problem, and it might not even be a manufacturing problem. If power outages, if a flood comes or something, right? God forbid.
It's like the great memory shortage of 1993, or the hard drive shortage of 2009 or 10 or whatever that was.
So what was the result with the Cosmonaut?
So I used the skinny end, which squishes.
Okay.
That definitely works.
Well, why don't you try it on you can try it on your MacBook too.
I could do that. I don't have anything that works with
it
Force
worked.
Touch on my MacBook.
It worked.
Yeah, it worked. It worked even on the fat end.
Well, then
that's not squishy, so it's pressure.
Yeah, it's got to be pressure then. Okay. If that little guy worked.
Well, you're not going to see it there because
I can feel it. I can feel the haptics of the second touch. Remember, the second touch gives you a second pushback.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot. Okay.
Definitely getting 2 pushes on this.
So anyway, watch delays. We'll talk about it more in what we've been testing, but I have thoughts. Tag Heuer's Heuer. Heuer.
I'm not going to try this.
Tag is French. Heuer is German. Here. Tag Heuer.
What are you doing, dude?
I'm pronouncing Tag Heuer. Heuer.
Okay.
Their smartwatch details came out today. It's going to cost $1,400. It'll be out in November, and it will have 40 hours of battery life.
Can you believe the Apple Watch came out and we just glossed over it? That's it. This is the first podcast since it came out, and that's it.
It's transitioned from things that are in the news to things that we talk about while we're testing.
I think it's fair. It's a fair place to talk about it.
It's just I don't. I think it's like underwhelming, and that's why we're not talking about it.
I don't think that's the case.
Oh, I think that's the case.
Well, let's talk about it. Okay.
I think that the best thing about it is the band.
So, Jeremy, you think it's... I'll get Jeremy's thoughts first, because you actually don't have one and haven't lived with one.
Yep. I don't know.
Why do you think it's underwhelming?
Well, because it's the same thing we've always said. We don't know why we need it. It seems like an interesting
absolutely true.
toy for Apple phone, whatever you call it. Yeah, Apple
iPhone users.
iPhone users.
Yeah, the old Apple phone.
Apple phone, iWatch. Yeah, it relays notifications. Is it worth $400? Probably not. But it's
So it's more want than need.
Right,
Absolutely.
exactly.
Absolutely.
It's been called a status symbol for iPhone users.
Yeah. And
I don't need more status symbols.
So I don't know.
Status symbols on top of a status symbol.
Yo, dog.
The more personalized, as the Apple Store employee would say.
Oh, is that what they say?
Yeah, the millennial span, it's a more personal choice.
So here's the thing.
What's the killer app?
My kid really likes the Mickey Mouse watch.
I will tell you for what I think the killer app is, and I only get to use it like 10 minutes a day before bed.
The penis drawing?
No, I get only before it goes on the charger,
Yeah.
I get to go. Oh, I'm gonna toy with the Apple Watch now. I think the killer app is the passive heart rate sensing.
That is it is much better at that than that Fitbit Surge was.
I mean, the fact that it does that passively and is smart about how it tracks that, in terms of it tracks every 10 minutes, and it does, and when it thinks you're exercising, it tracks more frequently.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That, in terms of health tracking, the data you're going to get from that is way more useful than I forgot. Once a day I'm going to check my pulse on the IR sensor on any other device.
But if you ask your doctor, they're not going to be. They're looking at that as an overall trend rather than.
Yeah. I mean, but
if at all.
If you're talking about measuring like pedometers, like your steps, and there are hundreds of devices that will do that, down to the cheapo Pokemon pedometer,
The tracker that came with your 3DS Pokemon game.
This is probably the most useful one because it's going to measure that activity plus your heart rate.
So
Have you found yourself checking that data?
yeah, I do.
Okay.
I mean, I'm also in the review window, so.
And that UI, so that activity monitor UI, where they distill your activity into three things: standing, whether you've stood, whether you've
I think that's
burned enough calories,
grossly
and
oversimplified.
whether. Well, I think it has to be simplified because otherwise, people. I mean, you can deep dive into those things. Calories and steps. They measure in terms of calories. Whether you've burned your requisite X hundred calories a day, but you can deep dive into. It does count your steps. I don't know how accurate that is. How the step monitor on your watch versus
I mean, basically the math on that is that if it knows your arm height and you're not doing something like furiously masturbating, then it can tell how much you've walked, more or less. Here's the problem.
Are you standing up when it tells you to?
No, that's the most. Literally, my jawbone did that as well. It buzzes every hour when you need to stand up.
You turned it off.
It's the most annoying thing in the world because it's not smart enough to know. Oh, hey, I'm in a movie now. I'm in Fast 7. I
there a
don't
theater
want to
mode?
stand up now. No, there's a silent mode and there's do not disturb, but there's no, hey, I'm in the movie theater. Even though I used the watch to fucking get the movie tickets at the theater.
That sounds like an easy thing for them to fix.
You would think that. But
Well, I'm saying it sounds like an easy thing for them to fix in the future.
Do you
Yes.
agree that the killer app is the pulse sensing capability?
no, I mean, I think that's something you can't really get anywhere else without a dedicated device. Like there's body fit monitors that have done that for a while. You can get polar chest bands that you put around your chest and they'll do that. They don't do the kind of ambient heart rate monitoring. I'm not a doctor, so I don't know how useful that is. My heart rate is ranged between 45 and 50 at night up to 120 when I was in the fire suit yesterday. It's not super useful to me. The notifications are pretty good, but because of the way notifications are handled in iOS, you rarely get the information you want. So, for example, if
It's
you
the swipe from the top down.
swipe from the top down.
Yeah, that's the one that I hear that people say is the least. It makes the least sense.
Well, so
Their structuring of that.
okay, let me take a step back. They don't explain force touch at all. Like nowhere in the onboarding process does it say, hey, you can tap and you can press hard. So I had a lot of confusion early on about when I should be pressing, when I should just be resting, when I should be tapping. For example, to send your heartbeat to someone, you just rest your fingers on the screen. It took me a day to figure out because I was pressing too hard and it was trying to do a force touch instead.
And the force touch doesn't give you a second haptic feedback like it does on the.
Oh, it doesn't.
No, it does. It gives you a bump when you push hard.
Okay.
Okay, so
But it never
don't-
says, hey, you get you don't get any feedback on a tap. You get feedback on a press. See, this is the thing that I was confused by. I thought the feedback meant I had tapped. So I was force pressing when I meant to tap early on.
And what are the things you can do that you can only do with force touch?
So it's stuff like notifications are a good example because the only way you can clear all those notifications at once is to force press.
No.
It doesn't seem like right now, if I look at my watch, I have no notifications right now. When I look at my watch, I'll have 20 notifications. When I look at my phone, I have none. I want those two things to always be in sync.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
That makes a lot of sense.
Same thing for like the quiet, not quiet switch on my phone.
Right, if you
If I
turn
put
your
my
phone
phone
on
into quiet,
Yes.
I want it to always be on quiet.
That sounds like a no-brainer.
You can set that for do not disturb. Like if you turn do not disturb on your phone, it turns it on your watch and vice versa. But it doesn't do that for silent. I understand why sometimes you might want to have the phone silent and not the watch.
Right.
But if I have the watch silent, the phone should always be silent if the watch is silent.
They should be in sync unless you desync them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The watch is an extension of that
Yeah.
pane.
So I mean, a lot of my frustration with this is that I'm coming from the Pebble platform, which is now a year and a half old, 2 years old even, and is like they've figured out a lot of these bumpy places and the things that make this annoying. The thing about the smartwatch is its capacity to annoy you is so much greater because it's so present. It's always on your wrist. You're always bumping. It's always there. Like your phone can get away with being annoying at a much higher level than I'll tolerate from the watch. I haven't been exercising yet because I've had a terrible cold for about 2 weeks now. But yeah, it's not. When I first got the iPad, I said, "Oh, this is how I want to consume the web now," right? And that was immediately the place that I went to read long web articles. I lay in bed in the morning and I read the morning news and check my email on that.
There was at least one no-brainer essential thing you can do with it.
Right. And
that was better than what we'd previously been doing at that point with the iPhone 4.
Yeah, I was much happier laying in bed with an iPad than laying in bed with a laptop, which is what I had done before. It felt much less intrusive of technology to me. A lot of the other problems are because the first wave of apps for this were developed obviously the apps that they were showing on stage weren't, but most of the stuff that came out on day one, the 75 or 100 apps that I had on my phone that already had Apple Watch components, were built in a vacuum. So they were built with no access to hardware, and people didn't know, like they had the Apple interface guidelines, but they didn't have, hey, here's when you should use Force Touch, here's when you shouldn't. Marco Arment came out 2 days after the watch came out and said, look, nobody should use Force Touch because people don't know what the fuck it is, which I think is probably right. I mean, that's an education problem.
Siri is slow.
I find Siri to be much more reliable, much more accurate.
I mean, the amount of time it takes to activate,
but the long press,
send a command, and then processing the command, I feel so slow.
Are you doing the long press or are you doing the Hey Siri?
Hey Siri.
The long press is much more reliable. I feel like it's a much bigger distraction when I'm driving than my phone or my Pebble have been. So, like, the temptation is to use it to do voice text and stuff like that because you can send the voice or you can send the text, but you end up having to look at it for so fucking long that your eyes are off the road for a dangerous amount of time.
So is that an accuracy problem? Because I do voice responses for Hangouts all the time while I'm driving with Google Now on the watch, and I just trust it.
Here's the thing. It's that you can say, hey Siri, send a text to Norman Chan and let him know I'm running late for the podcast. And it didn't even fucking pop up with Hey Siri.
That's why I think Siri is, and maybe that's one of the things why I don't mind having to touch the watch on the Android side to activate Google Now. You know, it's a quick tap on the face.
Yeah.
As opposed to
so you tap it and then say okay Google.
Mm-hmm. No, I just tap and then start saying. Tapping it activates okay.
I almost exclusively do the long press. That's the takeaway because that's if you long press the digital crown, it pops up.
How about the driving directions?
The driving directions only use Apple Maps, so they don't have live traffic updates. And the live traffic updates, since I'm driving around San Francisco where I know where I'm going, the only time I use Google Nav is when I'm going someplace I don't know, which doesn't happen that often, or I think there's going to be shitty traffic and I want to figure out if there's a better way. And since I don't get live traffic updates on Apple Maps, they're good. I actually, this is a place I love the taptic feedback. It has this real clunky kind of like bump, 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 bump turn signal sound, like a turn signal, and like a 79 Oldsmobile, like an old turn signal. Right.
And
is it different?
It is different.
I can't tell.
One is bump, 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 bump. The other one is bump, 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 bump.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I remember reading that they would make them different. I haven't read about that. That's interesting.
We used it the first day, and it was interesting. You can hear it.
Yeah.
They also give you the audio cue.
Huh.
But
you can feel it even when the audio's turned off. The thing that I love the most, I think the band is actually gorgeous. The Milanese loop is it's like super nice. I mean, it is my favorite watch band ever. I think I'm probably gonna get one for my Omega now. The taptic feedback stuff is amazing. It is much less grating than the vibrator on normal smartwatches.
What do you mean grating?
So the buzzer, like the phantom buzzing problem, doesn't exist with the taptic stuff. At least I don't get it.
Some people have said that they have, and maybe it's a time thing. I think it's probably a different type of Phantom. Feel. It's maybe less. The vibration probably is more leads itself. That type of haptic feedback, vibration and shaking, lends itself more to Phantom, to embedding itself in your brain. But people have said the taptic stuff, when their watch is off, they feel the tap.
It's impossible to ignore, like in a good way. You can turn it off immediately just by covering the watch.
It doesn't sound bad too.
It doesn't make an annoying sound. When I was in the movie theater, if it went off, I didn't feel like I was disturbing the people around me because it doesn't make sound unless you have the sound on.
Does it light up automatically?
I don't know. I had a long sleeve shirt on.
Okay.
Maybe. I think you can turn that off. I wish that there was more information coming through the notifications. Like with the default Apple stuff, they have a better grasp. For example, like if you use mail.app, the notifications for it are much more useful than the notifications for inbox.
You can change how many lines of
I don't think so.
I thought you could
Really?
in the app. Like
It depends
for
on the app,
emails,
maybe.
you can get 3 lines or 5 lines or
That's for mail.app, not for the other mail apps.
I'm saying for the Apple Mail.
Yeah.
Whatever. The Apple
The Apple Mail experience is pretty good. You click it, it takes you right to the thing on the phone. You can read the whole email. On Inbox, you can't read the whole email. You just get the first 3 lines or whatever it would be. It works really well outside in bright light. I was surprised by that. I was expecting it to be a little washed out.
Yeah. And have you made a phone call?
I have.
Talk with it?
That actually works pretty well.
Yeah, you can Dick Tracy talk. You can
Yeah. Like if I'm someplace loud, you kind of end up holding it up to your ear a little bit, but it's still like you kind of feel like an asshole now, but I feel like in maybe a year that'll be common enough that people won't.
How do you
feel.
volume up and down the speaker on that?
There's only really 2 or 3 volume settings for it.
But like for the phone call.
I haven't tried that yet,
Is
actually.
it the crown?
My guess
Maybe.
is you roll the crown. Yeah. A lot of times, like the thing that one of the things that they've done that's nice that I really like is like there's a lot of surprise and delight stuff. When you're on, say, the astronomical view, if you roll the crown, you see forward or back in time what the sun's going to look like. You can do the same thing with the Ori, which is the view of the solar system.
Yeah.
So you see planet alignment.
I will say that being on the receiving end of a phone call is where the person was on the watch, I couldn't tell they were on the watch.
Really?
You could not tell.
That's good to know. I haven't tried.
Sound
like a cell phone?
Sound like cell phone. Yeah. Bluetooth.
Like
I thought
a decent speakerphone is what Gina said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell it was like it wasn't distant or anything.
It doesn't get loud enough to hear like when I'm in the car driving on the freeway. I have kind of a loud car. It would probably be okay in Norm's car if I had to guess.
Have you used it to find your phone?
I have. That's great.
That's very useful.
That's a real killer.
Yeah. So Google doesn't have that feature?
Find phone.
Find your phone?
I don't remember how you get to that though, Norm. Is it on the glance?
It's where you turn to sleep mode. Swipe from the bottom all the way to the left.
You can rearrange those, which I didn't realize you were going to be able to do. It's nice.
It sounds like it's one of those things where you're going to spend a lot of time. Oh,
There you go. Yeah. It's
a lot of time in the Apple Watch app on your iPhone configuring.
Yeah.
And that stuff needs to get better over time.
I did that the first day, and then after that, I haven't had any problems. I'm at this point, I'm kind of reserving judgment on whether the apps are useful until we see more third-party apps that have been at least touched after people had actual hands-on time with the watches.
I'm surprised how many there are, though. Already, there's over 1,000, right? Like 1,500 apps or so?
I put probably 20 on my watch.
Yeah.
Most of them are hot garbage.
Too bad.
Like, or like in terms of not just bad, don't work.
Is performance affected by how many you have on that?
Doesn't
base?
seem to be.
Okay, so you can have 50 or.
I think you can
100
load this as much as you want, and it's not going to be a problem.
It'll be capacity is the bottleneck.
I wonder what the max is.
I synced over a playlist because you can hold one playlist on here for like running purposes. I haven't gone running yet, so I'll let you know how that goes. A lot of the battery life has been remarkable from what I was expecting.
Yeah.
I'm ending the day with 50+% almost every day.
Wow.
Wow.
I mean, the first day, obviously, there was a lot less because it started charged to 75%, and I spent a lot of time using it.
Yeah, the fact that all of the reviewers were ending their day with battery at all, and they all did, it seemed.
Yeah.
I mean, and those are the hardest core, use cases you're going to get.
Well, they also presumably released an update between then and now. I feel like the performance is better than I was expecting from the reviews. The reviews were really hard on third-party app performance, especially.
You know, performance in just load time or actual in-app performance? because I feel like load time, from what I've seen,
Load time can be really rough. There are some load time for apps is often bad. These are all non-native apps, so we're not going to know if that changes until I would think probably September when iOS 9 comes out. The like the handshaking and syncing time to get data to apps is bad. For apps that don't need the internet, it's fine. Like Dark Sky seems to update the glance fairly regularly. So, and it even says, says 4 hours of daylight remaining, so it hasn't updated since last night, I guess. Like that stuff is weird, and then you end up seeing the beach ball a lot. It's the battery life is much better than I was expecting. In full disclosure, I have pared down all of my notifications so that it's the minimal notifications. But yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at.
Thanks for the rundown.
Sounds like there's a lot of things that they could easily fix once they figure out how people use stuff like that theater. If it ties into the Fandango app or it knows you've in your mail. I mean, this is the kind of thing that because Google now taps into your Gmail and parses things like shipping, knows the syntax of shipping tracking numbers, knows the syntax of a flight and movie tickets, order confirmations. It can do smart things, and Google doesn't do this with Android Wear either. It doesn't know that if you have movie tickets, it will turn the watch automatically.
There is still a certain amount of guesswork involved with that, but there's a good chance.
Yeah, it is a trade-off. Like, do you then piss off the user by putting the watch on sleep, but when 10% of the time they're not actually at the theater, or do you
Apple loves their beacons. I'd be curious to see if they wanted to put those in the movie theaters as you walked in the door. And then it lets all iPhones know you're in a movie theater now. Yeah.
One other thing I should mention, I went in on Friday to pick up a sport band for the watch, thinking that those would be readily available, and not so much.
Are there any bands
There's
available?
no Apple Watch accessories in the Apple Store right now.
Wow.
The ship date on mine is May. So, yeah. Okay. If you want stuff, order it when you order the watch, I guess. Let's see, what else do we have in news? Kerbal Space Program's out now. It's been in alpha for beta for several years.
We played that at the Day of the Devs, right? No?
I don't think so.
Maybe not.
Kerbal, if you haven't played it, it's basically the NASA simulator. Oh. So you can build your own space program, design rockets, go to the moon, go to Mars. Well, it's not really our moon and our Mars, but similar places. You can build a Kerbal space station. It's pretty good. If you I just thought it was noteworthy because, like Minecraft, it's a game that came out in alpha very early and then was, people bought it and liked it. Hey, let's take a moment and have a quick word from our sponsors. Norman Chan.
Hey, Will.
Do you have a Fitbit? Do you like to track things?
I love tracking things. Data.
Have you ever considered tracking your car?
I do. I do track my car.
Oh, hey, I do too.
Yes.
I have this thing in my car called an automatic. It basically plugs into the data port on your car, the one that your mechanic uses to find out why the check engine light and all that stuff is on. Mm-hmm. And it will tell you where your car's parked, tells you how much you drive, how much you spend on gas, automatically notify emergency services in case of a car wreck,
and it also gives you decrypts basically what the
check engine light.
Check engine light.
Yeah.
Or if your car is smart enough, and most cars, if you're wondering if your car does have this port or not, most cars built in 2000 in the past 20 years have this port in the bottom of your car. It's very simple to plug in. There's an iOS and now Android app. They released that last year. And so if your car gives you warnings like, low tire, it will let you know, what's going on, or check oil, it'll let you know what's going on.
You can even hook it up to stuff like Slack with IFTTT. Your car can tell the people that you work with, hey, I'm running a little late. If you want to find out more about it, it's normally $100. You can get it for $20 off. It's $20 since it's $100. No subscription fees. Go to automatic.com/test. They ship it in 2 business days. You get 45 days to return it, and it's free shipping. I like it a lot.
I think it's a great deal. And if you like tracking, it's basically a Fitbit for your car. You can pull up exactly the routes you've been driving. It does gas mileage estimates.
You can let somebody else know where you parked.
And you'll also know when you hard braked when you weren't supposed to.
Exactly. So again, that's automatic.com/test. It's $80 with our special offer code. And thanks to Automatic for sponsoring. This is only a test. Now on with the show. And we're back. IBM had a quantum computing breakthrough this week.
That's good.
They have figured out how to do error checking. That's all I'm going to say because I don't understand any more about this.
Great.
But people who I know who are smarter than us said, hey, this is a big deal. So error checking apparently was one of the things that was holding back the ongoing development of the quantum computer. That's what I got.
Nice.
I've been doing some interesting stuff.
IBM is doing a lot of crazy science. Watson's out there answering Jeopardy questions.
What are we going to do with all that quantum computing power once we can actually use it?
I think the current thought is that there's a race between the development of some sort of alternate computing architecture,
right,
and Moore's law ending. Because right now we're doing like 14 and 8 nanometer processes and stuff like that.
It was a anniversary of Moore's law.
The 50th probably.
Anniversary.
Yeah,
I believe.
Valve had a bit of a kerfluffle this week.
Oh, that was fun.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I missed the start of. I think this started actually before last week's episode, and we just missed it.
So Valve announced that they were building the Steam paid mod system.
That seems like a great idea. I would like the people who make mods that I like to get money for their work.
The thinking is companies, and Valve admittedly is a company where many of their games came out of the mod community.
About half of them.
Yeah,
Counter-Strike,
Team Fortress,
Dota.
Dota. Yep.
I remember.
Mod, I guess that's not their game, but
I went to even in 2002 or 2003.
Portal. Yeah.
I went to a Valve demo day here where they set up a bar in the Castro, and basically had a dozen mods probably set up. It was Firearms and Counter-Strike and Team Fortress and a bunch of classic Half-Life 1 Source Engine mods. This was before Half-Life 2 even. They a lot of those games continue to get worked on because they hired the people that made the mods and paid them to just keep making their
Valve
mods.
likes modders.
They're pro modders.
And there's
best intentions.
Thriving mod communities, especially in games like Skyrim. But the gut feedback from users, a lot of it was that they're adding DRM to mods, basically restricting.
Well, they only went with one game. Let's start with that, right? They only went with Skyrim.
They did a trial, right? And it's part of the Steam Workshop stuff. So the idea is that it makes it easier and more accessible for Steam Workshop makes it easier and more accessible for people to add mods to their games. And a lot of stuff like hats and cosmetic stuff is already being paid for, right?
Yeah.
Like Steam, you can submit hats for TF2 and Dota through Steam Workshop and then make money from Valve for those creations. So why were people pissed? Because of the DRM and mods?
Basically.
Or was it because of the split?
They were afraid, and they didn't realize that Valve, maybe Valve didn't do this, when they launched the system, that you could also have unpaid mods, and developers could set a price developers basically going through the system had to set a starting price, and the starting price could be 0. But they thought moving into the Skyrim business, where there was a thriving mod community and free mod community, was going to take away that community from the users.
Well, plus, as Will says, the split was wrong.
Well,
it was.
Hold on.
It was 75% of whatever you pay goes to Bethesda and Valve. Yeah, and 25% went to the modders.
So I'm going to go ahead and say yes. My first reaction to this was that is a shitty split for the modders. However, if you look at what the other entertainment industries are paying people who make derivative works or are allowing people who make derivative works to get paid by anyone, which is 0, that is much, much, much better. So you're looking at, look, they should, the way to solve this problem is to be transparent. Look, we're taking 10%, Bethesda's taking 65%. They said it's up to the publisher and or the developer, depending on whether you have a publisher and a developer. But I assumed if we're talking about an EA-developed third-party game, obviously that's not this, But the publisher's got to take their money. The developer's got to take their money. Just because Bethesda is both the publisher and the developer doesn't mean they should take less money.
It really feels like a slippery slope. For example, making videos based using game engines, or
like
even
machinima style videos, or let's plays,
even.
Well, those are two different things. Though one adds artistic. I mean, you could argue that both add artistic.
Yeah, I think they both do, but it's all still based on still derivative works. Yeah.
So, like there's a bunch of stuff that has to happen for this thing to work. I mean, and just to be clear, they've already backed down on it. Gabe went out and did an AMA this weekend where he tried to answer questions and calm everybody down. Didn't work. So yesterday they announced that they were killing the paid mod program for now. They didn't close the door on it, it seemed, from the announcement that they made. But I don't think that we're going to see anything in the not too distant future. I hope that if they do it again, they'll be more transparent about it. I feel like personally, if I were a mod creator and I could potentially quit my job at, as Gabe said, the Waffle House, and make a Skyrim mod for a living, that would be amazing. Right now, the career path for those guys that are making awesome mods is to make a mod, use that to get a job at a game mill, or to get funding for your indie game.
But you still have to make the mod before you can sell it.
And that's and the trajectory of a lot of mod makers who have turned into independent developers and found a way to make a living off these mods. The trajectory has been free sample stuff as they develop, and then sell something.
Yeah, or in the case of like Minecraft and Kerbal, cheap at the beginning. So if you bought Kerbal when it's alpha, it was a lot cheaper than it is when it's out as a full game now.
But free is how you get word of mouth and how you test.
I don't know. Personally, I don't see the argument for Bethesda needing to have a take on this at all, because this is not their infrastructure. It seems
it's their property.
But there's already mods in existence that cost nothing, and Bethesda's fine with that. It doesn't cost Bethesda any bandwidth or support costs when people add these mods, and they're already being given away for free.
It probably does add support costs.
Well, they're already being given away for free, and Bethesda's making money on the game sales. So what I'm surprised by is that they didn't just find a way to give money to the modders through a donation program or some sort of bundle program where it just goes to the modders, and that's it. That's all. Like, get money into the modders' hands. I mean, and make that the problem, and then solve it that way.
That's what they did. That's what Valve did for TF2, right? For TF2, when they do those community map packs sometimes that are community designed and made and tested maps, they'll bring them in house. They'll polish them up a little bit maybe if they need to, and then when you want to support the map maker, the guy who made your favorite community map, you can buy something from the store, and that some of that money goes to them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that asking the publishers and developers to not make money off of their IP when somebody's making money off the IP is probably not realistic.
And there's a difference between the scale of mods is very different, though.
Right.
When you're talking about something like a total conversion versus it's using the engine and some of the assets versus something that's like a map pack or a texture pack or something.
Or something that is a gameplay enhancement that is literally using all of the assets of the game that was created by the developer. I feel like the developer should get paid. I mean, it's not like an Aliens TC.
The Aliens TC.
I still have a copy of that on my hard drive someplace.
Good old Aliens TC.
Good times.
Check those corners.
Such a bold decision to have no enemies.
Vaguely.
That whole first level devoid of enemies, just like the movie. Phantom 3, Norm. You and Joey went out and saw the Phantom 3 while I was watching that awesome Microsoft keynote yesterday morning.
Yeah, we met up with Eric Cheng, director of aerial imaging over at DJI, and he brought out both models of the Phantom 3, the Advanced and the Professional. We did a nice chat. This video will go up on Monday for you guys waiting for it, and shot some. I got to fly it. Shot some video. We got the test footage.
Fly like a Phantom 2?
So there are two things that are important to talk about with the Phantom 3. One is the flight characteristics, and one is the video quality. And they are intertwined when you're talking about using this as a video tool versus a pure hobbyist, a flying toy.
Does it look like the Phantom 2?
It looks exactly like the Phantom 2. I thought it was going to be bigger. It looks exactly like the Phantom 2. Instead of having the red stripes, it has now silver and gold stripes, depending on which model you have.
You mean the stickers?
The stickers.
Okay.
It's a little taller, so it's not going to fit exactly. If you bought a third-party Phantom 2 case, like a hard shell case, that fits perfectly the Phantom 2.
Oh,
it's
interesting.
not going to fit that unless you like shave off a little of where the struts are, because the struts are taller.
like make a little deeper hole for
A
him?
little deeper hole.
That's not
in
that big a
foam.
deal.
Not that big of a deal, and a lot of the cases will fit, I think, just fine out of the box. But a big question is, because they have the Inspire 1 that's $2,800, and this is, $1,000 and $1,250 essentially. What do you get and what you don't get if you choose Phantom versus an Inspire? And a lot of people think, oh, Inspire, it's obviously a very powerful system. I mean, we've flown the Inspire, Adam's Inspire. It's a rock. Like, when it's floating up there, it's super powerful. It's maneuverable, but it's not going to be as responsive.
It rides like a Cadillac.
Yeah, as the speedier, the zippier Phantom. The Phantom 3 feels, when you're flying it, is zippy. It's fast. It's very, you can do if you turn off the safety modes. We didn't do this, but I believe you could do like acrobatics with it. You can. The response time is just immediate in terms of
Comparable to the Phantom 2?
Comparable to Phantom 2, but and also so in terms of flight, it's powerful flight, more powerful flight system, stronger motors, better, more responsive ESCs, and also it uses a 4S battery system as opposed to a 3S battery system in series, so it's way more power, more voltage.
Flight time's about the same?
Flight time's longer apparently, so it's a higher capacity battery. You can't use the old batteries with it. They say 20 minutes. Like a solid 20 minutes.
Same ballpark.
Same ballpark. We did basically 20 minutes of flying. And very responsive, but when it's stable, when you're hovering, it's super stable. So something we could not do with the Phantom 2 is, for example, have the gimbal camera look down and twirl it. Like, when
It gets real wobbly and weird.
yeah,
right?
if you want to do a twirl and ascent, so looking at something down and then fly up and then spin the camera in the Phantom in place, it does wobble. Like you're not going to be right on that center axis. With this, it was right on that center axis, and I think that's a lot of it will have to do with those ESCs, the speed controllers. So flying it, I mean, it felt flying a lot like Phantom 2. The transmitter is a redesigned transmitter. It looks almost like the Inspire 1 transmitter, except no HDMI video out. A big difference, uses Lightbridge for the video signal, so not just Wi-Fi now. The video quality looks like the Inspire 1 video quality on your iPhone or on your phone or tablet.
You mean that's being relayed?
That's being relayed.
Okay.
The 720p video.
So I didn't realize the Inspire relayed Lightbridge video looked better than Wi-Fi. It does?
So much better.
Really?
If you're talking about, because you have a Phantom 2, right?
Yeah.
And you're connecting over Wi-Fi, you launch the app, and you can adjust the video quality settings, but the video quality settings are at most, 640, 480?
Yeah, I
I
guess.
believe at like a low frame rate.
Right.
Here, it's 720. The UI itself is it's a high HD UI. The UI is so responsive in terms of tapping. It's the same app as the Inspire app. So in terms of changing your exposure settings, changing anything, pulling up the map, everything works faster. And the video quality you're getting from the Phantom 3, much better quality.
You're saying it's HD?
It's HD.
Wow.
I think it's HD.
And the frame rate's pretty good?
Super smooth. It did have a little bit of tearing with interference because we're flying with two transmitters close together. If you're flying in a group, you're going to want them like 15 feet apart. But I think that in itself, the UI experience and that FPV experience itself is worth the Phantom 3 upgrade. Even aside from the better flight characteristics.
Now, but your yaw is still locked, right? You're still locked front.
You're still locked front for the camera.
Front facing.
You can only tilt up and down, and that's because the struts are going to be in the way.
Yeah.
So a big difference is the Inspire lifts up its struts, so you can do a 360. Here, you're locked, so you're only panning up and down. But you can. There's a jog dial on the transmitter now to pan up and down. You're not touching the screen to do it.
I like that.
The jog dial is super useful. Left jog dial is to pan up and down. Right jog dial is for camera settings, so for taking a photo or for exchange exposure on the fly. So you don't have to touch the screen at all while you're flying.
Can you do the dual controller thing where
You cannot do dual controller.
one guy's a cameraman?
Yeah,
Okay.
that is another limit. The thing that you're gonna have to get upgrades to the Inspire.
That seems like a
to get.
smart thing to differentiate.
Yeah, and also because Inspire you can do 360, you have way more freedom of movement with the camera.
Definitely. Yeah.
It's going to
It's more
benefit
useful then.
from having two controllers than one. The camera itself The Pro version shoots 4K. They're basically the same camera, except the Pro version can process the 4K.
Same as the Inspire?
No, same as each other's.
Okay.
I don't think they're as good as Inspire, but the 4K footage that we pulled, and
Joey showed us before the show. It's pretty amazing.
It's pretty great.
The fact that it's 4K at all means once you reduce to a 1080 or any HD res, the noise is going to be practically gone.
Yeah, it's really, really high bit rate.
Well, that was a
and good
complaint about
dynamic
the Phantom
range,
2,
too.
right?
Yeah.
Is that the bit rate, like you were getting basically like, it was better than webcam, but it was worse than an action camera, it seemed like.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
You can shoot, the professional ones is 1080 60. You can do 1080 24 on all of them. But if you want 4K, you're going to have to pony up and pay the extra $200.
The 4K is at 30?
4K at 30. Yeah.
What's the price? How much is it?
$1,000 for the advance and $1,270, I believe, for the professional. But I think this is a much more viable camera platform than the Phantom 2. We don't know how it compares to a GoPro Hero 4 yet in terms of image quality, because we don't have that yet. The field of view for this is 94 degrees. Still wide. It's wide.
So it's wide, but not fisheye.
It's not fisheye. Definitely not fisheye. It's like around, I think, the equivalent of a 20 or 22 millimeter focal lens. It looks good. We want more time flying with it. The video will be up so you can see the footage yourself, but we will have we'll try to get one of these in. They're shipping now.
Are they discontinuing the Phantom 2?
I think they're getting rid of supply.
Well, they have to sell off what they have,
sell
but
supply.
they're not going to make
You can get
anymore.
those pretty cheap. I don't think they're making any more.
With that price point, there's no room for it.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about the original Phantom 1, that was $700.
Yeah.
And you had to buy a gimbal and you buy a GoPro. And what made the Phantom 2 Vision Plus compelling was that for $1,100, you got the gimbal, which is, you can buy a third-party one, but it's integrated. Yeah. You get the app integration, and you got an okay camera, not a great camera. This, for essentially the same price 1 year later, you're getting a much better system. And I know when we talk about it has the Inspire one's optical flow and ultrasonic sensors.
Oh, so it makes the takeoff and landing. You can be stable close to the ground?
Takeoff and landing, super stable. We did auto takeoff, auto landings, and Phantom 2 has a return to home feature where it does an auto landing, but once it gets close to ground, it's still kind of like
that's all GPS control.
Bouncing.
Yeah.
That is. Yeah. We did a test with the Phantom 3 where we actually put foil on top of the Phantom 3, gave it a tinfoil hat to disable its GPS. So in the app, it says can't find any GPS satellites.
Wow.
It can't find any US or the GLONASS, the Russian satellites. So we're going to only fly with the optical and the ultrasonic. Ultrasonic's for height, optical's for positional movement, and flying about 10 feet off the ground, not 15 feet is the limit, it was stable.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is the Inspire was the first to have that feature, and they said that also allowed them to maintain stability indoors.
Yes. So we were flying outdoors. We didn't fly indoors. That's a test that we'll have to do. But in their presentation, they said this is a quadcopter you can fly indoors. Now, I don't think anyone should fly a Phantom class quadcopter in their house at all. When they mean indoors, I mean like a warehouse, maybe.
Yeah, like inside maybe a basketball arena or something like that.
A basketball court or gym, I think is okay, but I would not recommend anyone fly in like this space right here.
No.
I wouldn't want to fly a Phantom. I know we've done it, but
somebody after the giant bomb thing last night asked me if I'd seen the video of the wedding shot with an Inspire from inside the church.
That sounds like such a bad idea.
It seemed really bad.
Oh my God.
My kid's school had a morning meeting one day, one fateful day, about 3 months ago, where somebody brought in an AR drone to show the school, and it took off just fine. It hovered out on top of the first grade class and proceeded to crash land right on top of this poor girl's head. And there were tears involved.
Would she get her hair caught in the props or anything?
No, she was probably more startled than anything.
Oh, okay.
The AR drone has a big foam,
yeah,
protector around it, but bad idea.
That's a bad idea, Jeans.
I think that it's one of those things that it sucks that you can't get hands-on time with it before buying it. In most places,
unless you know somebody,
unless you know someone, it's just like VR.
They should be doing what Boosted does. I mean, I see when I'm in South Park, I see the Boosted board guys doing like demo days where they bring a bunch of boards out and people can check them out and go for laps around South Park.
That's because it's easier to control.
Yeah,
you can't
I know.
wrangle. I mean, maybe 5 people makes sense, but you can't wrangle 20 people with quadcopters. And even like getting them out there is one thing, but even when you have 20 people with quadcopters on a place like as open as Treasure Island, there's too much flight controlling that needs to happen, and you don't know what everyone's skill level is.
Well, you need to have one person for that. You need to have one person per demo, right? Like you need to have, if you have 10 demo planes, you need to bring 10 people to run the demos.
And one person fly one direction, one person fly the other direction. But they're at the scale where they're not local.
And I think DJI, I'm sure they want to sell more, but it seems like they're doing all right.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's worried about them.
They're doing fantastic, but it does suck for people, for all quadcopters, if you're interested in flying that stuff. I mean, it's very easy to make a recommendation to go spend $20 and buy a
Cheerson CX-10.
Good find.
Yep,
that's on Amazon, by the way, now.
Oh, really? Is it still 15? So the CX-10A.
It's 20.
What everybody told me about this is that the CX-10 is the hotter version, and the A version, which I got, is it's tamer.
3DR class quadcopter before investing in it.
I was going to say, if you live in a big area, there's probably flight clubs, like flyers groups or stuff like that.
Yeah.
So look on Craigslist, look on message boards.
And I know that probably someone in a flight club is going to have a Phantom. Don't be scared, because most of those clubs are people who build their own.
Mm-hmm. That's fine too.
It's fine too. It's just not the same experience. I know the thing people are curious about are the RTF models.
Yeah. LG announced the G4 this week.
LG G4 smartphone. Their
Is this
flagship.
a Samsung Galaxy S killer?
Well, I think it's maybe a Samsung Galaxy Note competitor,
okay,
as opposed to any killer. We haven't seen it yet. It really looks like it's LCD, so they do 2560 by 1440, but they use LCD as opposed to AMOLED.
Yeah,
because they're LG, they don't make the AMOLEDs like Samsung do. They talked a lot about how the image quality, the color gamut on this one was a lot better. But we'll have to see in person. It does have removable battery. It does have micro SD card slot. Has a funky leather back on some models. And it's curved. So those are the high points. Qualcomm processor.
Tesla's battery announcement is happening today.
Tomorrow, isn't it?
Oh, I thought it was the 30th. Is it the 1st?
I thought it was Friday, regardless.
No, big April 30 battery announcement.
You know.
I'm looking at a headline right now.
I am so excited about this because we're redoing a house.
So
what is this?
So
wait. Yeah.
What?
Tesla's big battery announcement is today. Here's what we know. April 30.
So it's happening end of today?
I assume so.
And the assumption is they're going to roll out a battery that you can use to power your house.
Yeah, so the idea is that they're using excess capacity on the battery gigafactory that's going in Reno to build wall-mounted, relatively compact house batteries that can charge during the day and roll that power out during the night. So if you want to live completely off the grid, you can.
Or vice versa, right? So you can charge up during the low peak hours that it costs less and use it during the day when it would otherwise cost more to grab the grid power.
Yeah. Also true.
I'm curious.
I think that this is a play to get rid of extra battery capacity from Tesla. But also what?
You think so? That's a
well, if they have a factory that can make 1 billion batteries and they only need 30 million a year, they should figure out a way to get those extra batteries.
Yeah, I don't think this is a way to offload extra inventory, though. I think this is a really smart move to increase their revenues.
I didn't say it wasn't really smart.
All right.
I think the real thing it is a way to apply pressure to the utilities who are starting to push back against the concept of selling power. Right now most people have solar panels, don't have batteries or storage in their house, right? So if you put panels on your roof, you're not at home during the day, you're not using power.
Right.
You can't put in a bucket.
Yep.
It goes back into the grid.
This is that bucket.
Yeah, you sell traditionally right now though. You sell that power to the power company at the peak prices in the middle of the day when everybody's running their air conditioners and everybody's at work and all the businesses are going, and then at night you buy power back at a much lower rate from the power company. The power companies, especially in states like Florida, are complaining about that now, and we're starting to see pushback. They're adding additional fees and stuff like that because you are, just to be clear, you're still taking advantage of things that the costs are built into the electrical rate, like transmission lines and power generation and power plants and all that stuff. Infrastructure. So they're starting to add infrastructure fees to houses that are using solar and basically aren't paying anything because they're breaking even on the power usage.
Is the hope that this announcement will be partnered with a solar company?
Well, he owns Solar. He started Solar City too.
No, I don't know that.
I didn't know
What's
that.
Solar City?
Solar City is another Elon Musk joint.
Wow.
Solar City.
Well, then that's the package.
Solar City. Wow, how did you guys not know this? We've talked about it before. Solar City is one of the companies that figured out, hey, people aren't going to be willing to pay $20,000 a year, $20,000 to put solar panels on their house. But what they will do is pay 75% less for their electricity, and we'll just lease the space on their roof for solar panels. So when you get Solar City panels put on your house, you enter into a contract. I mean, I'm sure you can pay outright. But what most people do is you pay into a contract that says, we're going to give you the space on our roof for your solar panels. And then instead of buying electricity from PG&E, we're going to buy it from Solar City at 75% the rate that we were paying for PG&E or thereabouts, discounted rate.
Mm-hmm. That's it?
That's it.
But they don't get the power any of
But no upfront cost for the cells.
Yeah.
So basically what Solar City is doing is paying back into the... Yeah.
How much do you think it's going to cost?
I did read that they were going to do the similar
expensive.
thing, that they were going to lease these batteries. Do you read that too?
Yeah.
So that makes perfect sense.
I mean, the way lithium-ion batteries work right now, they have a limited number of charge cycles that they work for. It doesn't make sense for a normal person to spend $10,000 on a set of batteries. You're better off treating it as a utility and paying them, I think. I mean, you'll probably lose a little bit of money in finance costs, but most people I don't think can just drop $10,000 for a house battery.
Apparently, Solar City customers already have access to a Tesla home battery, and this is just offering that without the solar component.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
So this is to tap into the grid.
So this is for people like you and I who don't have panels.
That's interesting.
That's interesting because if the question is, with all of this, is if you buy this, put it in your house. If PG&E changes the way they do billing for buy cheap, sell high, then it's going to be problematic.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing about all of this is right now, and this is something most people don't understand, right now there's not really a good way for the electric grid to store power. If right now, in order for your light to turn on when you flip the switch, somewhere a power plant has to increase capacity just a little bit, right?
Yep.
Or somebody else has to turn something off. So by hooking up a bunch of batteries to the grid, especially if they're smart batteries, and the power company has the ability to say, okay, now is the time you should charge, and now is the time you should discharge, then it should help with the problems that we had here in the early 2000s where
The rolling blackouts?
where we had rolling blackouts, or it's a massively inefficient system is the problem.
Do you mean it should help single homes, or that these batteries?
I think it will help as a whole.
Maybe these batteries will act as a distributed storage system
that's
for
the thing.
for the grid.
So right now, there's a a dip in usage and a spike in production at nighttime of excess power. So generally, they spool down power plants or turn down boilers or whatever. Now, theoretically, they could just keep them running all the time, put that extra power in batteries, and then when there's a brownout situation, if say it's 90 degrees one day and they weren't expecting that to be, instead of having to rush to crank up a power plant, they can just drain everybody's Tesla batteries for an extra 30 minutes, and it'll work itself out.
That seems like
That's the promise.
that seems like PG&E would owe Tesla some money.
One would think that.
That's interesting.
We'll see. So anyway,
Changing the world. One PayPal account at a time.
Norm, you put My Idol on here. I don't know what that is.
This is the hottest thing in tech.
Is it the hottest thing in tech?
You guys should create My Idols.
What is a My Idol?
My Idol's a Chinese app that allows you to create a avatar of yourself and put on clothes and have it do fancy animations. If you're on Instagram, you might have seen many of these.
What are you talking
It's
about?
amazing.
Really?
Yes.
What-
we can't create one now because it takes a few minutes, but I encourage you, both the iPhone users, to create one of yourselves and children.
I was looking for the VR Minute theme, and I still haven't found it. I found one that's
goodness.
not real good.
Oh, it was in your comments, wasn't it? Or was it tweeted?
Didn't we also get an email this week
That
from
one,
someone?
that one isn't. We can't. That one. There's weird stuff on either side of that makes it difficult for us.
Okay,
to
let's do it live.
Okay.
Fuck it.
And
Live.
now it's time for the VR Minute.
You got to do the beep beep beep.
Oh, okay. And
now, the VR Minute.
Norman Chan, what's happening in the world of VR
John
this week?
Carmack gave a talk at UT Dallas, which Jeremy linked me to, and we both watched.
The University of Texas, Dallas?
Yes. And it was a very typical Carmack talk in that it was in-depth and
Note free.
He sat down and talked for 2 hours.
I love
basically.
John Carmack.
It was fantastic.
He's the best.
Several insights.
Yeah, I
into
thought
the
so
mind
too.
Of John Carmack.
Okay, so let's distill a 1 hour talk into, let's say,
oh my goodness,
5 minutes.
The theme of the talk was content, and he didn't talk about hardware, of course, but he did allude to some things here and there. And I think we can start with content, primarily non-game content. He thinks that games will, figure themselves out. And he talked about the challenges of narrative games. John Carmack has that famous quote. He thinks that story in games like story in porn. There's an inherent tension between narrative and open world exploration, and agency. Agency and narrative are difficult things to reconcile. Games have done it somewhat successfully, but have kind of leaned toward one or the other, more toward the agency side. So in terms of the other types of VR content he's really interested in, it's transporting the user into a different place, either through panoramic video or photos. And he thinks that the photos is a solvable problem. Maybe not exactly solved now, but the ability to stitch photos and get high-resolution cameras, as long as the positioning of the cameras are right and the blending software is done properly with some manual effort, we'll get to a point where it can scale. The quality of a panoramic photo, of a 360 virtual photo, will scale with the quality of the HR heads, the HMD. Video, however, is a incredible challenge. To a point where he doesn't see an endpoint to that being solved right now.
You mean like doing video,
360 video,
360
like film, like a film,
stereoscopic, right?
And putting the viewer in a moving video where they can look around and things happen. And with the Gear VR, there's the Cirque du Soleil demo, which he thinks is one of the best demos they've done so far. There's
they're doing that. They're doing a whole thing. Oculus is.
We're not talking about rendered videos.
No.
This is like,
not
camera.
the story. This isn't the Oculus story.
This isn't CG stuff, like camera stuff.
I thought that their story stuff was video, though.
The story stuff is
it's all rendered?
CG, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Game
I
engine
didn't realize
stuff.
that.
And some of that stuff is kind of tied together. And again, lends itself to the tension between narrative and agency. But just in the technical, getting video to display properly in a 360 environment, in 1, high resolution enough, 2, the stitching, and 3, stereo with stereoscopic 3D. Those all are at odds with each other. Primarily stereo. When you talk about stereo photos, you can put two cameras next to each other, and again, kind of the stitching has to work out right. But with video, the stitching just cannot work itself.
You'd have to have 2 separate cameras. And they'd have to be the eye distance apart. You'd have to have 2 separate 3D cameras that are eye distance apart. And right now, those 3D cameras are like ball size.
When you think of the ball size, the eye distance apart works when you have the 2 pointing forward cameras. But the balls, when you're pointing to the far right,
one of the balls is going to be in the way of the other ball.
But let's say they're transparent. The distance of the cameras then shifts.
I've got a solution.
Okay.
We need gnat vision. We need a bunch of little robot gnats, each one with a camera. They'll be mostly transparent, a cloud of them, but the cloud of them captures all the world around you. Jeremy, get on that. I know you know how to make stuff.
Done.
Okay. So the stereoscopy just doesn't work. It works like 3D works in a movie. It kind of works because you're fixed onto like a narrow field of view for the movie.
Right.
But even when you're sitting at the edge of the theater, it kind of is off. If you rotate, if you lean your head left and right, roll your head.
Well, that's polarization that causes that problem.
That doesn't work. The way the images are overlapped.
Didn't he say that the people who have tried this, it has been in it so much work that by the end of the process, they have said, if we knew that it was going to be this much work, we would have just ray traced it. We would have just made it virtual.
Yep.
Well, and that's like, so I've seen a couple of 3 or 4 at this point VR video, 360 video demos, and none of them are 3D. Like they're always maybe a little tiny bit 3D, but it's kind of 3D in the way that early post-processed 3D conversion movies were, where you have like a thing that pops out a little bit from the background, but it's not. It doesn't look like a thing with physical space. It looks like voxels.
So one of the things that we talked about when playing 3D games with virtual reality is like, the 3D comes naturally. It's a free side benefit. You just got to render it twice.
Yeah.
And you have 3D in games. In game engines, that may be the case, but there's of course the rendering cost. In video, when you're watching VR video, it's a hugely expensive cost that frankly isn't worth it. He's talked about how when you put VR demos for someone and don't have no stereoscopy, they think the experience is almost just as good. They didn't realize there wasn't any.
Well, he
3D.
also made the really good point, which is that monoscopic panoramas are almost a best case scenario for low motion sickness or VR sickness or any kind of dissatisfaction from the user, because you focus on a single plane. It's just like looking at a regular panorama, but you're inside of a globe, which is one 2D image that's mapped inside of a sphere that you're in the middle of, which is interesting because I know we want to make this a 5-minute story, but
no, it's fine.
I've always thought that one interesting
kidding.
thing about 3D was that you have two different methods of focusing. Your eye has two different methods of focusing. One is the parallax of your eye's convergence, like going cross-eyed and looking straight ahead. But there's also the aperture of your eye, which has to focus on objects near and far.
And you can't do that slather thing in
right.
VR.
So with VR or any 3D movie, you're always focusing on the plane of the screen, so your aperture is always constantly there, but you're messing with convergence. So that's something we don't usually do. Interestingly,
like it doesn't happen in the real world.
It doesn't happen in the real world, exactly. Now it's our brains can get past that, but that's also thought to be one of the reasons why people get uncomfortable in 3D movies or in VR.
I thought it was because you couldn't see your nose.
Yeah, right. So that was
can help
interesting.
as
So
well.
if we do monoscopic stuff, that solves that problem.
And you talk about, if you had the choice between perfect parallax and perfect 3D, you spend the resources to get the parallax.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
But the real interesting thing is there are the very straight linear trade-offs in terms of field of view, resolution of display, and frame rate. These are all if you double one, you get half the performance of the other.
Right.
You have to find a trade-off. So he's talking about developing a tool where you could give developers the choice. You show them if you want perfect retina quality, the best rendered video, you're only going to get 30% field of view and only at 30 FPS. And then let the developers toggle. Okay, if you want 90 FPS for perfect positional tracking, seamless movement, no judder, then you're gonna have to either turn down the resolution or even narrow the field of view more.
Yeah.
And so allow people to figure out what those trade-offs are. You can't have it all right now.
If Carmack wants to make tools for developers, that's a good thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But a really interesting thing is you don't consider the fact that you don't need 360 video at all. Like, as much as he champions 360 and Gear VR being a great swivel chair experience, to be frank, most of the Oculus stuff is going to be in front of a desk.
He jokes that most people are just going to hide joke phrases behind you.
Yeah,
because no one's going to look behind you.
It's going to be 200 degrees is all you need. 180 plus
you want to be able to turn your
buffer,
head, but not stand up and turn around.
Right. And even top and bottom, we don't need fewer people. You're not going to need all that field of view up on top.
Well, unfortunately, he said a lot of people who are used to playing PC games step into VR for the first time and lock their heads and look straight forward. They don't even look around a little bit.
Yeah, they move their eyes.
Part of that's a failing of sound too, though.
Well, competitive gamers, they don't want to move their head at all because that's adding extra movement data that their brains don't want to have to process.
Yeah.
Now, sound is something he talked at length about.
Yeah, I guess he's wanted to have great sound for decades now.
He was an early proponent of the Arial stuff, like in the 90s.
But it's never been thought worthwhile because you can never count on people having good sound equipment.
Right, and he thinks it's so disheartening for him to see VR demos, people doing Oculus demos in YouTube, not wearing headphones. Like 10% of the people, he says, wears good headphones.
I thought that was interesting he said that, though, because it does require the engine to support headphones. Yeah. Like, the engine needs to have a mode for headphones or speakers.
I think it has to support headphones, because the thing is with speakers...
It's improvement if it does, absolutely.
No, but with speakers, the position of the speakers isn't going to change as you move your head. So the math for changing what comes out of the speakers is going to be way harder and rely on you to actually have the speakers in the places they're supposed to be.
So this is one of the reasons that in Crescent Bay, the headphones are built in.
Yeah.
And he talked about maybe not even like the fold-down ear flaps, maybe just to make it comfortable.
Earbud jack or something?
No. Actual tiny speakers pointing at your ears on the headset. You lose privacy. Everyone gets to hear ambiently, but it's still locked in place, and so you're guaranteed to get 3D audio.
And he's talking about how you can model the sound that enters your ears from 4 different points, and it's pretty amazing.
It's HRTFs and you can use HRTFs and binaural, and you can generate both of those. The HoloLens just announced that they're doing binaural on the HoloLens.
Binaural recording
generated.
I didn't realize that you'd need more than one set of ears. Like
Well-
the binaural recordings that I've seen, it's the position. You have the two mics that are positioned in like the representation of the ear. But the way they record it for VR demos, they actually do 4 sets.
Right.
Because of the shape of the ear distorts based on actual movement.
Because things over here sound differently if you're facing forward
And then they
or
just blend
backwards.
between the two.
and they blend between the two in the software.
Huh.
So he's really confident about the software for audio.
What, did you talk about toolchain for the video stuff at all?
He talked about how
Like, there's no Premiere for 360
Yes.
video,
And
basically.
he talked about the production facilities all have to do it manually now, and that is a problem. One of the problems is not only is there no tool chain for developers, there's no easily unified app for viewing. Like all the apps, all the VR videos are independent apps in Gear VR. He wants a distribution system and a playback system where it can all be unified and not that Samsung milk stuff.
I think he's excited about the turnkey solutions that we're seeing coming out. Like there are 360-degree video cameras that have been kickstarted.
Yes, so we have the Ricoh Theta that you talked about, and I did a show and tell on that. And one of the cool, and I talked about this too. Even though the fidelity is low for video, like really low resolution, 2,000 pixels spun across 360 degrees, it's going to teach cinematographers and directors how to design for VR video, how they can film, how they can block and script stories in a 360 space if they want to do that without actually having to invest in giant $100,000 camera rigs.
I just think it's a stage, like the analog isn't film, it's stage shows.
Which is what he said.
Yeah.
And the stage show, when you think of a stage show, you're still thinking of it from the perspective of viewing from audience, where you're looking,
Right.
The prime seat, in the front row, you're still looking back and forth. I don't think it's going to be for the sit-down experience. You shouldn't be on the stage in the middle of the stage, turning your head all the way around. It should still be within that kind of 90 to 120 degree field of view, where you can pay attention and have audio.
But if it does happen around you, one thing that can differ from a stage show to VR is the VR performance can wait until you're facing the right direction.
Right.
And
The
then
cues.
then the show can go
It
on.
can give you cues,
Yeah.
and they can program. It can be programmatic, that experience.
That's true.
Again, narrative and agency.
I thought
Attention.
and he pointed out that the best panoramic stereoscopic images that he's seen have been made with this Otoy software,
Yeah.
which is currently he's involved in a contest to render the metaverse using this software, and I have not had a chance to play with it yet, but I'm looking forward to it. It looks like it's doing some kind of ray tracing.
It's offline rendering
Yeah.
for scenes, yeah.
So but it's all CG, right? It's not photography. So that looks really interesting.
And then the thing that he did allude to was what he's working on right now, is that some type of social thing. This could be a very big Mark Zuckerberg push, because
You're talking about the metaverse now.
He and Mark agree on this.
He wants to, he's actively working on a way for people to have avatar heads in a VR space and interact with each other.
Oh, that was interesting. Yeah, he talked about the eye tracking.
So
the fake eye tracking.
The fake eye tracking. So my theory is that there could be one of two things. It can be floating heads in a disembodied space.
Well, explain the thing. So he's made a space where people can gather with other people all wearing VR headsets.
And when you pop into a space, like Jeremy, you're at home, you pop into a space,
Yeah.
and because you have a microphone, the audio picking up from your microphone, and they process that in the VR space.
even though
I will know.
Even though I'm outside your field of view.
I will know where in the virtual space you popped in.
Right.
I think that only makes sense in like a theater. He must be talking about the theater, the Oculus Cinema.
But this was cool that he got this eye tracking working, Will, so that if I'm looking at you in VR space and I'm within a certain cone of view, like if I'm within 30 degrees of you, my eyes will be looking right at you.
The virtual eyes.
Oh,
Even
the
though-
oh.
My virtual eyes will be making eye contact with you.
Even though there's no
And
real
then
eye tracking.
If
Hold on.
if I turn my head a little bit, I'll break eye contact.
Is this
with
why
you.
your My Idol matters? You make your My Idol to be your virtual reality avatar?
It's like my me.
Yes, it's basically Mies, but he's talking about for communication in the social space.
Yeah.
They can fake eye tracking to a point because based on what they know about human behavior,
To a point where people thought it was working.
where people thought there was actually eye tracking.
Yeah.
So you can fake a lot of this stuff in terms of social sense and get a really good experience without needing actual technology for eye tracking and
Interesting.
Yeah.
and body tracking.
Norm, anything else?
I think there's going to be an Oculus Cinema
There's a
where
lot
people
more.
can pop
I
in the
know.
seats. The eye tracking
they already
stuff,
have that. That's out. You can get that on the Gear VR.
I think no. I think that you're going to be like 4 people watch a movie together.
Okay.
One more thing I thought was interesting is that he expects the pace of screen resolution to increase faster than our ability to keep up with it.
And
Like our eyeballs or software?
from a processing standpoint.
hardware.
I don't.
Which
That
always
is
been the
absolutely
case.
true. Yeah,
It's always been the
I don't
case.
know.
4K monitors and graphics cards can't
but
do.
monitors stalled for about 10 years. Like LCD monitors stopped at 1080p for a long, long time.
That's just because there's no demand.
That's what I'm saying.
Cell phones change it.
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
Cell phones and laptops change
I'm
all
just
that.
excited because he's also said that in order to get Retina quality VR, we need 16K displays.
Yeah.
Great.
Yes.
So that's
Yeah.
4.
And we need a way to
4K.
pipe that data to the display because we can't do that with display
With
right
HDMI,
now,
right.
HDMI or
Yeah.
Wi-Fi. He said, and rendering. It's why he thinks foveated rendering is a real scary thing, but really, he hopes that we can get to it. It could be the big rollout.
Fovea rendering is where we paint the back of your eyeball with images.
No, when the small point where you are actually focusing on,
The 4 degrees.
that's in high res.
Yeah.
Everything else it can be blurry.
Yes. But the problem is
So that's
that,
why you need eye tracking inside the goggles.
Yes.
But
Okay.
eye tracking right now, no way. Your
Yeah.
eyes move around so quickly. If you look at any eye tracking demo
Yeah.
and what the IR sees your eye, like your eyes aren't just focusing. Even though you think you're focusing, it's constantly shifting.
Right.
And it's gonna be way more than that 4 degrees. Let's say even the 10 degrees. But your eyes move so fast.
He suspects that 20 milliseconds is not going to be enough
not
for
gonna
that.
be good enough. And that ties back into the AR problem.
I think we have sufficiently geeked out.
So, yeah, 20.
And that's the VR minute.
So Peter Watts wrote a science fiction novel called Blind Sight 10 years ago, that deals with what happens in the gap. Because when your eye moves that quickly, the reason you don't perceive it moving all the time is that it turns off for a millisecond.
So it's like
I don't know if this is actually true or just in the book, just to be clear.
it's how they came up with no judder flickering.
Right. Just turn it off.
Yeah, turn it off.
Just turn off the eyeball. So yeah, anyway, it's weird.
No data is better than bad data.
There's more in the VR minute, Norm.
Nice. That's it.
Unreal 4 is getting Steam VR support.
Oh, yeah, that's
Fantastic.
good news. That's
Yeah.
the first third-party
HTC Vive.
HTC Vive engine that's been announced.
So that's good news.
So Unity can't be too far behind.
I would say from a broad perspective, as great, as much as I really love the Vive experience and have full faith in Valve to create a really good product. And
But
have
no paid
developers
mods.
and hopefully no paid mods.
Yeah, fuck that.
The stuff that's coming out of Oculus, just in terms of the technical insight, is something that we haven't seen from Valve yet.
Well, we
Like,
used to. I
we
mean,
used
Abrash
to
used to
when-
post those indecipherable
and
blog
that's-
posts once a month.
It's weird. Like Valve has an opportunity here to share all of their insights from making Vive.
I think they're so focused on getting a product done.
That's why it's one of the reasons I love Abrash and Carmack,
Yeah.
because they're willing to spend 2 hours talking about this stuff to move everything forward.
Unreal is going to support. If you want to develop for HTC Vive, they did say you can use a DK2 as a stopgap.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
They also added some new Morpheus features, but did not specify what those are. The speculation I read said that had to do with the 60 frames per second to 120 frames per second upscaling or interpolation that the Morpheus did at GDC. So, and that's it for news. I think we should go play some music and talk about what we have been testing, gentlemen. We've already talked about the Apple Watch.
We have,
It's a mixed bag
as of now,
as of right now. Norm, we shot a video for the new, not Air, not Retina, not Pro, MacBook ass MacBook.
MacBook.
It's space gray.
The screen is the best part about it.
Okay.
You can do most of what you expect to do on a MacBook Air with it.
What about throttling?
Throttling, I have not noticed throttling to an extent where it has been detrimental to my work.
So you get into a great deal of detail in the video, which is up on Wednesday of next week.
It's up now.
Oh, it's up right now.
It's
Did
on
it go
the
up this
site.
morning?
It went up yesterday.
I thought the Samsung went up yesterday.
Nope, Samsung's next week.
Oh, okay. I didn't
Watch
look
the
at, I
video.
didn't look at the site yesterday. I was at stuff.
Watch the video. But basically, I think it's more capable than the snarky people would have you believe in terms of it's not just for web browsing.
It's not an executive laptop.
It's not a netbook.
Yeah.
We'll say that. But obviously not as capable as a MacBook Pro or even a Broadwell U MacBook Air
Yeah.
this year.
Except for the resolution.
Except for the
I
screen.
remain perplexed. I mean, I know why they did it.
I remain frustrated
Yeah, that there's
that
no
they did
Retina.
not put this screen
Yeah.
on the MacBook Air. I would have been fine if they put this screen on the MacBook Air and just charge extra $300.
Yeah, that would be okay with me. I would have bought that instead of the Retina MacBook Pro. This you have more stuff on here. The Asus UX305.
In the same video, we talked about a Core M a bunch, and one of the more interesting Core M products. I think what Core M really is for this product, like a product like the Asus UX305.
Like that's a bigger laptop.
It's physically it's bigger. It's still really thin and really light. But we're talking about 1920, the 1080 display, $700. And you're getting 256 gigs SSD, full Windows 8.1, 8 gigs of RAM.
That's pretty good.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Is that MacBook 8 gigs too?
This is 8 gigs as well.
Okay. I mean, yeah. It's good that they actually put enough memory in the machines.
That's the standard
by default.
That's
now.
the base is 8.
Seems like it.
For the Asus.
It's the base for the
Okay.
MacBook too,
Gotcha.
I think.
I believe it is for the MacBook. What you're paying for is the processor and capacity.
Good.
Okay. Jeremy, anything you've been testing you want to talk about?
I've been playing a 3-year-old game called Hill Climb Racing.
That sounds great.
It's
What is
great.
it?
Yeah, iOS. It's a
Do you climb hills?
physics racing hill climbing game. You know, it's like that motorcycle racing game that everyone likes. Trials.
Oh, Trials. I like Trials.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's made by an indie developer. I'm hooked on it.
I got a Roku 3 with voice control.
Cool.
It's just like a normal Roku 3 as near as I can tell. But you can you can press a button on the remote, hold it up to your mouth, and say Stuart Little, and it will find all the services you have except for Plex that have Stuart Little on them and tell you where you can watch it. So, like, if you have HBO Go and you have Netflix and you have Amazon, it'll say you can buy it from Amazon. It's not on Netflix, but it's on HBO Go.
I think latency in voice control is going to be the next big hurdle, incremental hurdle for companies. It's not the toughest problem to solve, and I know
Amazon does a pretty good job with it.
Amazon does the best. I would say Google
and Amazon are both pretty
Google
good,
now
yeah.
probably is the best job, but you still have to activate it.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Amazon does the best practical use of it right now.
I love Alexa.
Having my Hue lights turn on and off.
Oh, do you use Alexa for that?
Using Alexa for that is magic.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh my god! And I know you can do that because we have the Hue app on the Apple Watch.
Star Trek.
And that is
So
being able to tap on the watch to turn on and off lights. Yes, more convenient than having to take out the phone and
Yeah.
do it. But being able to say, Alexa, turn off the lights in the office,
Yeah.
magic. Or turn on the lights at Norm's desk,
Yeah.
and just that light comes on,
Yeah.
magic.
So,
right.
so somebody a few weeks ago had recommended an internet-connected alarm clock called the Ivy to check out when we were talking about voice control stuff. I got one, hooked it up. It talks to SmartThings, which is what controls the lights in my house. And I can say it's the problem on that side is that the SmartThings API seems to be a little thin unless you actually go in and build an app. So you can say turn off individual lights, but you can't turn off all the lights in a room, which is all I really want. I really want to say turn off the office lights, turn off the bedroom lights, and it just doesn't do that.
Right.
I might have to hook up
mean,
Hue to the
yeah, you should do that. 'cause
Yeah,
it's
to the Amazon
It's
thing.
super easy to do it. You just got to sync it.
Well, the problem is I have a mixture of Hue and then other stuff, and only the bedroom and the office are all Hue. Everything else is like
I mean, you can set groups.
Cree and whatever.
You create
yeah,
groups.
no, I know.
So, if at WWDC they do a home automation play, the voice stuff with Alexa is the high bar right now.
And just to be clear, it's a mixture of hardware on the machine that does the initial Alexa recognition, and then a fast to the cloud response. I think the problem with the Apple stuff right now is it seems like it waits until you're done to send anything, which means that the Alexa stuff. As soon as you start talking, it's sending to the
And
internet.
Google now.
Yeah, and Google now, same
and
thing.
You're getting feedback with Google now.
Yeah. Well, you get feedback on the Apple Watch sometimes. It's unclear. Sometimes it just sits there with the bar, and then sometimes it fills in the words as you go.
Apple just
real
changed their
weird.
backend too for Siri, so theoretically it's gonna be faster.
So yeah, the Roku 3 with voice control. If you don't have a Roku, it's awesome. I would totally recommend getting the Roku. If you already have a Roku, it's not worth spending another $99 to get the voice control remote. And it only searches services that are online. It won't search, like if you have a big Plex library, it doesn't actually search your Plex library because it's searching on the cloud, not on your local box. So anyway, that's it. Anything else you've been testing?
No.
Ancient iOS games?
Oh goodness. No.
Okay. Let's take a question.
We're getting the Gear VR soon.
Oh, is it
Gear
coming?
VR
Is
2.
it shipped?
May 14th.
I'm going to play some music, and then let's take some questions.
Emails?
Well, but we do the other one.
Email.
'Cause we don't do emails. We do
Emails?
No.
Questions?
Boom.
If you have a question for This Is Only a Test, the email address is podcast@tested.com. Please keep your questions brief and on topic, or, cleverly off topic, I guess is okay too. One thing I don't like about Inbox is that you can't star stuff anymore, and that was how I always used to note a question that was suitable for the show. Our first question this week comes from Clark. He says, "Hey guys, I'm gearing up for a 2-week backpacking trip in the wilds of Wyoming in August, and I'm starting to think through the best camera strategy for a trip that long. I'd like to get your thoughts on the best approach to my digital camera. I'm not a serious photographer, but this is a once-in-a-lifetime kind of trip, so I want to have some pictures. My wife is a serious photographer and has an Olympus OMD 4/3 format SLR that is compact, fairly lightweight, and weatherproof. So I could take that camera with a single multi-purpose 14 to 450 zoom lens, or I could buy a compact waterproof camera like the Olympus Tough TG4. What are your thoughts on the camera itself, interchangeable lens, SLR, or compact point and shoot? Regardless of the camera I choose, I'm also going to have to come up with a plan for batteries. Would you bring several batteries that are already fully charged, or bring a single battery and a solar charger to charge it overnight, assuming I can strap the charger to my back so that it recharges during the day as we hike? What do you guys think?"
Multiple batteries.
I think the solar is not a bad way to go for a camera.
I do not want to charge solar. You
Really?
don't rely on that. Batteries weigh so little, especially in that size.
That's true. I mean, but they're expensive, so they're $30 or $40 a piece, right?
You can get generic ones.
And do they discharge over a period of time?
They
Not-
last pretty long.
Not over the 2 weeks that you're worried about.
That would not do over 2 weeks.
So what do you think? 3-4 batteries for a 2-week trip? Figure
Depends on where
250.
you shoot. I would get four batteries and a charger. At least 4 batteries.
But how are you going to charge the charger?
Well, I'm saying if you get the solar and 4 batteries, but the solar should be a last resort.
Oh, well, if you're going to get the solar, I would say the solar has a battery built in, so you can charge off of this, like that orange, the orange thing that we used a few years ago, which is I think still Wirecutter has a good recommendation for solar chargers as a general rule. That'll have a battery backup in it that it charges during the day, so you dangle it off the back of your backpack, and then you can top off your camera battery at night. I would say buy two or three, buy 3 total battery. Take 3 total batteries, and the solar. What do you think about the big camera versus the pocket cam, Norm?
Pocket camera's fine.
Yeah, that's what I would say. And in a pinch, you can even use your cell phone because you won't leave your phone on. When you're turning your phone on for 10 minutes a day, the battery will last forever. So you can turn it on, take some pictures, and turn it back off again if you need to. Next question comes from Rick. Rick says, "Hey guys, looking for a trustworthy source for password storage and protection. I know all my passwords, but I can't guarantee that if something happened to me, my wife would remember them. Do you have any solutions?"
I use 1Password.
I use 1Password.
I also use 1Password.
1Password is great as long as you're primarily on Mac. The Windows client is kind of shitty. Like there's always a weird lag when you log into it the first time of the day, for me at least, in Chrome.
I don't get that.
I don't get that either.
Oh. Maybe I have maybe I need to update my extension. A lot of people use LastPass and KeePass. Those are always recommended highly. Lifehacker usually has an annual update on this, so I would check them and see what they have. Whitson's a good password manager guy.
And their integration in mobile OSs as well.
Yeah, that's my primary criteria at this point. The fact that I can finger unlock 1Password on my iPhone makes the iPhone the easiest place I use 1Password now.
Yeah, for sure.
We got one more question if we have a minute. Chris says, "Hey guys." Everybody starts with "hey guys" now because they know you're going to be here, Jeremy. Over recent months, you've made recommendations for books, which I've downloaded and listened to at work. I really loved The Martian and Ready Player One, and I wondered if you had any other recommendations for audiobooks I can listen to while I'm at work. I prefer science fiction, but I'm open to other stuff if it's good. A book that I love that's a fantasy book is Patrick Rothfuss's The Name of the Wind. It's the start of a 3-book series. It's fabulous. It's really lovelily written. It has a great backstory. I haven't actually listened to audiobooks, so I don't know if it's any good. I would assume it is. And it's a delightful book. Damon is another thing that you and I have talked about in the past, Jeremy, I think.
I would actually, yeah. What's his? I never remember his name.
I'll look it up.
I always forget. I would recommend his last book, his most recent one.
The Robocalypse one?
Yeah.
Those are great. Daniel Suarez, I
Daniel
think is his
Suarez.
name.
Thank you. Well done.
And I got it just before Google gave it to me. Yeah, Robocalypse and then the follow-up.
No, it's not. It's not called Robocalypse.
Really?
Influx.
Oh, I haven't read Influx.
It's excellent. It's actually, I think it's maybe my favorite of all his books. He writes near future, very plausible sci-fi.
like dystopian sci-fi, though.
Yeah, it's all very negative.
It ends badly. So I read Robopocalypse a few weeks ago by Daniel H. Wilson. It's also quite good. And there's a sequel to that was less good, but still interesting. Norm, anything on your front? Okay. So I guess that'll do it for us this week. If you have a question, the email address is podcast@tested.com. Today's outro comes from General Dismay, I think. Did I write it down? General Desire. We have 2 generals in the forums now. Thank you guys for listening to the podcast. As always, if you want to support the show, write a review on iTunes. It's the best way you can let more people know about us. And we'll be back next Thursday with another episode. Today's outro comes from General Desire. Here we go. Bye.
Hi there, I didn't see you.
Tested.
It's so big. Why, thank you.
Tested.
Mother's Day is coming up, 10 days.
Oh,
May 10th.
what do you do for Mother's Day, Jeremy?
Well, I make sure the kids think about their mom, get her something nice.
Okay. Do you take them out shopping or do you make something?
No, we usually go to the pottery place and they paint some pottery, and then the pottery place
What's the pottery place?
fires it. They have these in every little city. Like San Francisco.
Yeah, little cities.
You go and you walk in, and then you choose pottery from the wall. You paint it with as many paints as you like. You bring it to the counter, you pay your money, and then they fire it and finish it.
Seal it.
And you get it back in a week, and it's beautiful.
Nice.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So if you want to do that, the time is now.
The time is now.
Reservations.
So last year, the first year
I'm going to move my car.
I made mistakes. And I just got a card for me without thinking that there was now another person in the family.
Newbie problem.
I looked at her and I was like, she's not going to, clearly the baby can't pick out a card. The next year, I got glitter and glue and we made some cards with like handprints and stuff on them,
That's
which was
nice.
pretty good.
Good work.
That was a good one. But I'm this year, I don't know what we're going to do. We might do some painting. Maybe we'll make some crafty stuff.
We also do breakfast in bed.
Oh, breakfast is a good call.
Yeah.
I'll get her up early. We can make some breakfast together.
I get my son like 8 oranges, and he squeezes them, and
That's good.
it's good. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, when they're 2, there's not a lot that they can do to actually
less of that.
contribute.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she'll stand there and hold onto my leg. So
Yeah. The handprints was smart.
handprints is a good. That's a pro move. I think I felt pretty good about that one. But now the bar is real high, so
Right.
I'm a little frantic. I got one more weekend before
Good luck.
Mother's Day buying season is
right.
over. Anyway, see you guys next week.